Hello, it's me again. I'm here today. Hope you're all having a nice day. Today is Monday. Yep. And on Monday, I'm here for a bit, and we talk about War Thunder, or maybe other things, depending on what's on your mind, or don't know what you're thinking about, really. I hope you're all doing well. Hello, Firework. Hello. How's it all going? I'm a bit sort of sleepy today, so I'm not exactly hyper awake, but hopefully this beverage will assist me. It is coffee today because again, there's no tea. There's no tea, which is a bit miserable. But I mean, so the title's a bit of a lie, but we can all move past that together. I think we've got that in the bag. Um, Also, midway through this stream, at some point, I will have to look at my phone for a bit because my aunt's getting married, and I'm tuning in via live stream. So I will be maybe a bit distracted later on. I will actually check the link in a second. Awesome. Okay, so let me get that on the clipboard ready, and then we can go and talk about stuff. Hello, how is it? Hello, Lucky. No Minecraft jokes? I wouldn't have thought so, no. Well, maybe. Maybe we'll do some later on. It depending on whether there's a sort of charisma vacuum involved, in which case maybe some will be necessary, but we'll see. Hmm. Okay, yep, this is very strong. I should have not put as much bean in it. How are you, my friend? Maybe can I call you that? You can. I'm okay. As I am most days. I'm just a bit tired. I don't really know why. I think I didn't drink enough water yesterday. That's usually my sort of my plateau of energy on the next day. Hope you're doing well as well. LMAO bean? LMAO bean. Yes. I mean, well, the coffee machine that we have, it's like to get the strength you want, you need to press the button to get a sort of a set amount of bean. And this is 4 bean, and you usually have 3 bean. Like 5 bean is sort of, maniac tier, and I don't want to go near that because I mean there'll be there's no redemption if I go to that level. So, you know, it's not exactly uh the highest echelon of coffee, but it's okay. Are you British? Yes, I am. 15 bean or bust. I mean, combining bean and bust in the same sentence, I think, is a sort of a recipe for disaster. But I could agree with that. I don't drink coffee, only water. That's pretty good. I for like 10 years didn't drink any water because I once drank too much, and I got that thing where your body thinks that you're kind of dying because it's like if you drink too much of a thing, it's like poison effectively. And my body thought that was happening, so I didn't drink water after that because it was horrible and not very nice. Mm. How many times do you have to push it to summon Sean Bean? I read that as Scene Bean, and I couldn't like get out of my head that period in like 2006 where everyone was calling themselves a Scene Bean. I haven't really risked it. You can't press it more than twice, otherwise it goes a bit weird. So maybe I should try doing that, and he may appear. Although it's a bit of a risk. You never know what might happen. Um, Yeah, dude, like bean is one of those words that I think if you inject it into anything, everything around it just becomes bean. And it's the same with egg, bean, frog as well. It's like it's something with short words that are sort of satisfying to say. It will just sort of, terrible, irredeemable, some may say. So, how's it going? What do we want to know today? Oh yeah, I never introduce what this is. I always forget. So on Monday for like 2 hours, I'm here to talk about the game with you. If you want some advice for what to do, how to progress, what vehicles to get or to avoid, or what premium to buy or anything like that, I can help because I have played this game um, for an incredibly long time. Up until a few updates ago, I had every single vehicle spaded. Some of them I probably bought with GE, but like 97, 8%, I probably spaded myself. And yeah, so I have a pretty decent idea on how everything works. So if I can help, I will help. So, um, Oxy, as someone who hasn't bought the Battle Pass and has not ever done the Battle Pass, how do I get it and what are the first steps to leveling it up? Well, you can buy it on the little window for some GE. And sequentially, as you sort of level it up and well, as more time passes, there are tasks to complete, and those tasks give you points that level the pass up. And that's generally the progression. You can also buy special tasks as well, which give you more things to do. But there's always sort of a constant passive task to work on. There are daily tasks and then sort of more long-term tasks that take a longer time. So, if you really play the game a lot and you have the time to dedicate, you can get some really good stuff out of it. A lot of people like to kind of be quite negative towards the battle pass because I think chiefly even the term battle pass is sort of a negative thing in the industry because it's been done quite poorly in the past. But in War Thunder's iteration, it really isn't that bad. I mean, it's very cheap, and if you have the time, you have the potential to get a lot of free stuff, a lot of Warbond stuff, lions, decals, and then like premium vehicles as well. So that's very, very good. And I think ultimately it's really worth it, but as long as you have the time to put into it, because you need to be able to play a few hours a week, that kind of thing, and to be able to get the top prizes. So it is something that I think is worth it ultimately, because even if you don't get to the very end, you can still get some pretty good stuff. So it's generally sort of the very brief for the battle pass. I would honestly say it's worth it. I mean, for I think it's 2000 G to get in on the entry level. And from that, you can get like 4 premiums and, some pretty decent premiums as well. So for the price of sort of the money that you put in, you can get a lot out of it as long as you have the time. And if you have the time, then it's definitely worth it. Absolutely. Oxy, do you play boats? I love boats, floaty. I do. I actually quite like boats. I don't really play the dreadnoughts that much. Mostly the destroyers and the coastal stuff, and I actually really like that. I don't really know what it is about it. I think the destroyers for me are sort of a good middle ground between the sort of ship classes. And the really top tier stuff is really, really slow, and it's hard to sort of have any control over the engagements that you're in, and I don't really like that as a feedback loop. But I like destroyers because they are the middle ground in the sense that they are mobile enough to be able to sort of get yourself to an area where you want to be. And at range, you can like juke shots and, dodge out of the way, and, that your positioning has a strong impact and you have the mobility to be able to utilize the maps in that way. And I think destroyer gameplay for boats, I think I really do like. And coastal stuff as well, because if you can utilize the maps and really, hug the terrain and, maneuver your way through the islands and stuff, you can have some really good games, and I like that. So I like that sort of area. So yeah, I do like boats, and they're quite fun. Yeah. I want advice on the Chi Nu 2. Well, Chi Nu 2 is an incredible vehicle. It's probably one of the best low-ish tier premiums in the entire game. For the tier, you have one of the best guns tier for tier in the game. I can say that quite comfortably. You rarely will struggle with anything apart from like angled KV-1s and maybe the occasional like hull down Sherman if they're really far away. But generally speaking, you're not going to struggle with anything within reason. There are some things that are obviously very, very strong, but mostly it's going to be point and click. So because of that, because the gun is so powerful, it's one of those vehicles that gives you no advantages if you play it at close range. You have about 50 millimeters of armor. It can bounce decently effectively. The Japanese early sort of World War II era mediums have a deceptive level of armor in the sloping. And if a round hits like a sloped angle or the top of a connecting plate, it can bounce. But again, I haven't said it before, but that shouldn't be relied on. It's not a reliable aspect at all. So you don't need to push into the map at all. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in this game is that you will, I say you, I don't mean you specifically. I'm not trying to say you do this mistake, but you know what I mean. Is that players, that's probably a better way of putting it, will generally drive into the map and stop as soon as they see an enemy, and they will engage from that point. And that's something you should really not do unless you're in a tank that's really versatile and really good at brawling. Chi Nu 2 isn't good at that because it has a long reload and unreliable armor and poor defensive mobility. So you shouldn't drive until you see action, but you should drive to aim to get to a point where you can engage at range. Either that's a defilade in the terrain, a sniping spot, or somewhere behind cover that you can pop out of to engage. You shouldn't be driving out and then stopping when you meet an enemy, because there's no benefit in doing that with a vehicle like the Chi Nu 2. So that's chiefly what I would do. And that's what I've had the most success with it. I think we looked at it before. I can't remember. I've got like, I think my KD in that is like 108 to 7 or something. It might even be better than that, I think. It's a vehicle that if you play it cautiously, you will have a really, really good time. So you just need to not put yourself in a position where you're going to be fired at very much, and you can get away with doing that because the gun's very easy to aim at range and it has enough penetration over range to carry the damage. And so that's probably what I would do. That's how I played it, generally speaking, anyway. Um, is the WMA 301 worth it? I haven't played it myself very much at all. I think I've only played a couple of games in it. They went quite well though. So I can't give you sort of as good a perspective as I want to, but I think for a premium, it is worth it because it's a premium that's versatile in the map rotation that you can get. Those vehicles that basically don't rely on armor and always have good mobility, they are within reason timeless in a sense because even in full up tiers or on quite open maps, quite short range maps, they will still work. Armor is not present, so it won't hold it back when it gets negated. You can't really negate mobility if you utilize it well. So it's a good product in that you will basically never be in a situation where it doesn't work. And so on that basis, it's much better than the Type 69 and the T62 if you're on console. So I think it is a good product like that. But whether it's worth it for you, I can't really say. It's a vehicle that I think is going to be difficult to play if you're not really that used to the game, because it's a vehicle that doesn't have any fallbacks. If you get hit, you're going to get knocked out. And if you can't aim the gun, you're going to get caught out as well. So I think it's a vehicle that is intrinsically difficult to master in that sense. But if you are relatively comfortable with the game, and you say you've got a lineup as well with the around 8.3, it's going to be a product that will work, and it's a product that will get you to the end of the tree quite effectively. So on that basis, I think yes, I would say so. Sorry, I've missed a lot of questions. Bear with me. I will try and get back to you as quick as possible. For how long do you play this game? I had an account in the beta at the end of 2012, but I was using an email that was basically me and a friend shared it, and like we kind of lost contact. I think he changed something about it, so I can't get access to that account back. The account I use now, I think, was early 2013, my main one. So yeah, I've been playing for a very long time. It's odd to me that there will be a point in the coming years where I would have been playing War Thunder for over a decade, and that's really weird to me as a thing that's happened. But what can you do? I will try my best to answer all of your questions. It's going very quickly today. What is your favorite tank BR to play with? I don't know, really. I think I like things below the highest echelon of, the highest tier echelon. And I don't like stuff that's super low tier. So probably around like, I think I quite enjoy playing from like 3.7 to like 7.7. And I think I like that period of the game the best because it's that area of the game where the vehicles are their most sort of unique. In the sort of really low tier and really high tier, the vehicles feel really similar. And I like War Thunder for its variance and like the depth in the vehicles you fight. And in the middle tiers, you can be driving out a vehicle and you can engage another vehicle, and you will be so different in terms of your pros and cons that you need to actually think about how you're going to engage them. With top tier, it's just see enemy and then point and click at either the lower plate, breach, block, barrel, driver's port, turret ring. And that formula, and over-angled side plate. And that formula basically never changes. So I don't really feel that top tier for me is that engaging because it's mostly just reaction time and map knowledge. And that does have a place, and that can be satisfying. But for what I kind of joined the game for, that doesn't kind of, scratch that itch for me. So I don't really play it that much. But the middle tiers, I can't really give you like an exact BR range. But between those 2 points, I think, even though it's quite a broad range, that's probably where I have the most fun, I think. What's your advice on the STRV 103A? Well, I like to play it in a really annoying way, and that's that I kind of play it without the hull traverse on, and I play it at really close range, because I find like swinging the hull around and like getting that like split-second click is really, really satisfying. Don't play it that way. It's really unreliable. It's fun when it works well, but it doesn't work consistently all the time. So for a vehicle like that, I think there's basically, again, like the Genie 2, really, there's no advantage for playing it at close range, because you've got a laser rangefinder, really good gun, armor that only gets better the further away you are, and really fast relay every 4 seconds. So on that basis, you can like fire at an enemy and miss, and you'll be able to fire back before they can even react to you really. And the further away you are, the stronger that advantage is. And it's a vehicle that basically gets stronger the further away it is from your fighting. With the upgraded Sabo, with the advanced sloping modifier, you rarely struggle with anything. There are some things you do struggle with, but because you fire so quick, you can aim for weak spots quite comfortably. So the closer range you are, the weaker you are. That thing gets disabled sort of the easiest when an enemy hits closer to the barrel. And that's difficult to do at range, not impossible, but it's more difficult. And I feel like I want to give a longer answer to this, but really, the further away you are, the better. And even for using the hull traverse as well, because the longer range, you need to sort of make less adjustments to fire. Like if you're a very close range and enemies to your like 10 o'clock, that's a long kind of traverse to get there. But if you're like over a kilometer away and the enemy's at your 10 o'clock, you need to move very slightly to get the gun on target because of the distance difference. So there's nothing really detrimental for playing at long range, and I think that's really it. It's there's no kind of other gimmicks to it. It's just staying at long range, and as well, see if you can hide the lower plate, or at least play around an area where there's a defilade that will hide most of it, because it is easier for enemies to get through and splash through that. So that's probably what I'll go with. It's probably not the longest, well, the most, I guess, in-depth answer, but I think for a vehicle like that, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It's just the further away you are, the better, really, and I think that's probably the best you can really be. Anyway, I've missed so much. I apologize. Can we change the email in our account without deleting it? I believe you can if you go to support. They don't do it very much, but if there's like a good reason, I think you can get it changed. But it's mostly to avoid scamming, and that kind of thing, because that's a very real possibility. And so yeah, you can go to support depending on the circumstances. They can help you, but it's not a constant thing. Yes. Okay. Scrolling time. What do we got? When will the mouse return? Sorry for everyone who gets sort of here's an answer to this question every single stream. The mouse in the past returns for War Thunder's birthday, 5th of November-ish, and within that time there's usually a sort of temporary window where you can research it. Whether that'll be the case this year, I don't know. I have no idea. So I can't say that it will absolutely come back for that event. But I think if it is going to come back, it will come back around that time in a similar way. I can't tell you, if that, I can't promise that effectively, but it will probably come back in a similar way at some point. The thing is, everyone knows how popular the mouse is, and it's not going to be gone forever. So I think it's not unlikely that it will be back at some point in a similar way to that, I think. Yes. Reading things. Hello, numbers. Hope you're well. Now I just want to watch Fargo again. Terrible. What happens if you buy a squad vehicle with Golden Eagles? You get it. You don't get it spaded, so you still need to research the modules, but you will get the vehicle as it is. If you buy it with G, you'll never lose it. Even if you get it with squadron points and leave a squadron, you'll never lose it. So yeah, effectively that's the answer. Yes, Mike in his usual looming presence is just behind the door, grimacing in his way through the halo lights. And I just need to not look at him. He's sort of like that, what's that movie with like the red guy in it, who's in the corner pointing? That's sort of Mike's presence, except less, more ominous, I would say, but nicer. Have you tried Robust tea? How do you pronounce that? I haven't, I don't believe. No, is it good? What's the overall flavor of that? Can we have a bald man mainstream? I mean, yeah, there's days in the week. Just badger him enough, he'll eventually do it. Let's see. And also beverage. Redbush. Oh, okay, yeah, Redbush tea can be okay. I haven't had it very much. It's not a bad type, but it's one of those teas that I can't really have casually. I kind of have to, it's like a I want to say like a special event tea, but that's kind of dumb. Um, but yeah, I can't have it super frequently, but kind of nice. Um, is the Mounds a premium vehicle? Nope. I mean, you can demand the bald man as much as you like, but demand it to him. Otherwise, he won't make his own stream. I've been saying this to him since I've been doing my own one, but he hasn't done it yet. But at some point, perhaps. Um, mm, I just got the Calliope 75% off. What is the best way to use it? Um, the Calliope is it's sort of different. Well, it's quite different to the other Shermans as well because it doesn't. Well, if you play a lot of the other 75 millimeter Shermans, it's difficult to play because it doesn't have a zoom. So it's a bit more difficult ranging in the shot. But as long as you're a good BR and you're on a map that's generally quite flat, you can have a lot of fun with it. Obviously, you're on a Sherman platform. The stabilizer's really really effective. The gun's great, and the rockets as well. Even though they're not super reliable, they're good at kind of crippling in that sense. They're very good at crippling, and you can knock out barrels and tracks and then finish things off with the main gun. And I think one thing that a lot of people kind of miss out on, I guess, when using rocket vehicles, is that they will eventually, eventually, that's a really bad way of putting it, is that people will sort of find themselves using the rockets in place of the gun constantly. In that you could be in a position where you could finish off an enemy with the gun quite easily, but you don't because you want to use the rockets. And I think getting over that initial hurdle with a rocket vehicle is really important. So that's something I would keep in mind, definitely, is that, aim to kind of cripple with the rockets and then finish off with the main gun. It may seem more satisfying just to use the rockets themselves, but the main gun is still really, really good, even for 4.0. So I think you should be using them in tandem, really, with the gun and not kind of using either or. Unless you're fighting a vehicle that is sort of open topped or an AA, then you can basically just use the rockets. Um, and that's probably what I would use. Go for open, well, flat ground as well, because in hilly terrain, aiming the rockets, they don't have much depression, so it can be a little tricky. Um, so that's ultimately what I would do, and I think the biggest thing is really just getting over the kind of only rocket playstyle, and that's something that I definitely find myself using, especially when I'm using a rocket vehicle to record with, because I want to use the rockets because it looks cooler. So yeah, if you can kind of find a pairing between the two weapon types, that's really the best way to go, I think. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I will be using the Calliope soon for the tier 3 video. I haven't used it for a long time. But yeah, that's generally what I go for when playing a vehicle like that. PE3 Adviz Ples. Which version of the PE3? Will maps get bigger if we add planes like the F-14 and MiG-25? I think probably, yeah. I think from sort of the team's perspective right now, there's not really some of the maps I agree shouldn't be in rotation. There's a couple of them that are incredibly small. I think that will probably be worked on. But I think right now there is enough room from the wider perspective. When we start getting vehicles like that, and with vehicles that have a much longer range on their missiles, I think we probably will get longer maps. Obviously, I can't promise that, but I think it's not unlikely at this point. When is the next World War event? No idea, unfortunately. But yeah, maybe at some point. I'm not sure. I've really not heard much on the World War front for a while. P3 Biz. I haven't used it for a very long time. I mean, well, you can sort of use it as a heavy fighter, but it's not exactly esteemed at that. You've got a decent frontal armament. The defensive guns are not awful, but they're not exactly the most workable things in the world. For going after ground vehicles, I pretty much just use the RBS rockets. They're kind of difficult to use on the P3 because they're quite wide out on the wing, so they're quite difficult to reliably use in that sense. but I do quite like them for that. I mean, the bombs as well. It's a vehicle that I think it's difficult to kind of give a general playstyle for because it's chiefly down to preference. I think whether you want to use the bombs or the rockets if you are going after ground units. I prefer the rockets. The bombs are decently usable as well. Um, but it's a vehicle that you can't, if you're going to after aircraft, especially, you can't lose speed in because it takes a while to gain its speed back up, and it's not exactly the most agile vehicle at its sort of a lower speed point. So yeah, I mean, I haven't played it for a very long time, so I can't give the best advice. But keeping the speed up, no matter what you're doing, and maintaining that level. I mean, obviously at the tier, vehicles are going to be able to outpace you, but you're going to need the energy potential to be able to get out of fights or even dogfights to an extent. That's probably a very general way of looking at it. What I would do, I mean, it depends if you're using it as a fighter or as a ground attacker, really. But it's decently capable at both. But yeah, I haven't used it for a long enough time to really give a better answer, I think. But that's generally what I've very light advice, I guess. Does the beta TU2 have the individual bomb release? Yes, it does. Can confirm. Why am I holding my mouse like that? Terrible. Why does the Centauri move up in rank? Because it got the it's well more improved round, I think. So it was more suited to the higher rank. I mean, yeah, it's kind of annoying in that sense to be close to getting it and then have it sort of further away. But at the same time, it's now in a better place to well progress down later on in the tree because it's a tier 6. So you can more effectively research tier 7. So in the short term, it's annoying, but in the long run, it's now in a better place. And I think that's, that's a positive takeaway, but I can appreciate that it's, it's annoying to be close to it and having, it taken away like that. But still, I think in the long run, it's in a better spot. It's in a better spot. Tom, thoughts on the LA9? That used to be one of my favorite props in the game, like 6-7 years ago when I used to play it a lot. I haven't used it recently for a while, but I liked it because it was more of a hybrid in that it's very, very quick playing. It's not exactly the most mobile when it comes to dogfighting, a more capable vehicle that's sort of more suited to dogfighting, but it can sort of do it. And you can play that hybrid role as long as you're careful. And I really, really like it for that, in that it's one of those vehicles that you're not exactly ever out of the element. You're never really in a situation where you can't do anything, and I really like the LA9 for that. And yeah, the 23 mils are incredibly powerful. I mean, a lot of people like to undersell them, but they really, really work. And I really, really like them for that. It's such a great cannon. They're good at going after bombers as well, because I often find that a lot of intermediary cannons, like the Hispanos especially, aren't that great at going after bombers because they don't do enough sort of internal structural damage. Those cannons do a really good amount of structural damage, so they're great at ripping stuff apart. I really like it. It was one of the first vehicles I talismaned, I think, in the Russian tree. It's a difficult vehicle because at the same time it can do everything, but it's not exactly agile or as agile as it needs to be to play that way reliably. And I think that's the difficulty with using it like that. But yeah, I rate it. I haven't used it a lot recently. Actually, I did use it recently to get footage for a promo B-roll. That's part of my job. I get the promotional footage for the game, and I think I got a 7-kill game, but 4 of them were in a line, like getting ready to land at the airfield. They were like a squad of like AD4s, I think. It looked beautiful in the replay to get the footage from, but I felt awful afterwards. Yeah, those guns absolutely obliterate. They're very, very good. Hello, sir. No, I can't say that. That's connotations. Sir, det, scan. Hello, I've saved it. Hello. Christ. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, ignore that. Lavochkin line is amazing. Yeah, the LA line is one of my favorite in the game. Again, like same reason as the LA9, they are beautiful hybrid planes, and that if you know what you're doing, you can get so much out of them. They're vehicles that can maintain the energy, and they can dogfight as well. I mean, you can dogfight within reason mostly anything comfortably with those aircraft. You will be, at a loss with the Spitfires, but you can still kind of beat them in that sense. I've had really good fights in the LA5s against Spitfires and won. Um, and I don't want to say that that's something you should probably do reliably or constantly, because it's not really reliable. If the enemy knows what they're doing, you are going to lose out. But it's a fantastic versatile aircraft platform. I think I said it a few times ago in the past that I love that event with the LA5s and the G2 109s back in the day, where it was on a set map, and I love that because you can it's one of those aircraft you can do so much in. The engine's a bit iffy. They're very kind of, if you don't maintain the energy, it's the sort of low temperature, they can be really tricky. But they're fantastic. I really like them. Yeah, Scan. I mean, I still hate coconut water. I still have the can, I think, of that beverage of coconut water, sort of somewhere in my flat in the UK. Disaster. Hope you've been well though. It has been a while. Um, how's life been? How's it going? I may need to tune in for the wedding in a second. Yes. Hang on. It's my aunt's wedding now, and I should be in the UK watching it, but Corona's awful. So I will just sort of have it here. I'll put it in front of the stream deck. Now I'll put it here in front of my keyboard. So sorry, I will be looking down and sort of watching this a bit because yeah, I don't want to miss it. Are you a hoarder? I'm not, but I had this bet with someone that in the future, like say 100 years, drinks like old drinks cans will be worth a bit of money because me and my dad used to go bottle digging a lot. We still kind of do. And so you go to kind of places in the UK where like 150 years ago people would like bury like old bottles and stuff, and they are really nice. They're really like beautiful with embossed designs and stuff. And we've got some bottles that are worth like several thousands, and they're really nice thing to kind of dig up and collect. And so with like these old cans, I want to save them for like 50 years in the attic, and like I want to win this bet, and I want to bet that someone will buy them. Someone will buy them, and I'm not losing out on this. I'm definitely not losing out on this. Oh, bless, there's cousin Tasha there, and I don't know who that is. Um, that's little cousins. Oh, bless, everyone's there. Oh man, I wish I was there, man. It would have been nice. It's a really nice venue as well, open air, absolutely fantastic. Sad. So I will be melancholically glancing at this in the future. Apologies. Um, so life's been aight, been here and there. You've moved on. Yeah. Well, I suppose I've moved on a bit, but I'm still doing the same thing. I'm just sort of, you know, getting slightly larger in the pond of War Thunder, I guess, in that sense. Um, you know, there are more things I want to do. Where they will happen, I don't know, or when and where. But the wheels are in motion, as it were. I don't know why I said that in a sort of vague, sinister way. But yeah, not having a bad time, doing some stuff. It's not bad at all. Glad you've been doing well. So, is the Chinese MiG-9 worth getting more than the Russian MiG-9? Well, from what I understand, they're essentially the same. You've got the regular MiG-9 and the MiG-9 late. I mean, the answer to that question, I guess, honestly, is that it's whether you want it or not. If you want it for the well, help your way through the Chinese tree, go for it. I mean, it's not black and white in that sense, I think, contrary to the color of my jumper. But I think, yeah, it's up to you. I don't think that's a question I can really answer. I'm afraid, but yeah, if you want it, go for it. Tome, is the Lag 3.4 unobtainable? Yes, I do have the plane. I've had the Lag 3.4 for quite a while now. And yeah, it's a vehicle that is never really given out, only to sort of staff members and that kind of thing. Yeah, sorry, I've missed your question a lot. Is the MiG-21 biz worth the grind? Haven't really gone to Russia. MiG-21 take time. It's worth it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the top dog right now. I don't play top tier jets that much, so you'd probably be better off asking someone like Copsy about that, because I don't really play the top tier jets that much, because in my kind of, well, how I approach this game really is that I want to understand as much as I can about it. And because the top tier is constantly in flux, if I dedicate a lot of time to working out how it works, and in a year's time it's completely different, that's time I could have spent working on something else. So I don't really spend too much time around those planes to be able to give you a good answer. I think it's a vehicle that, in my experience, I've had a lot of fun with. It's really usable, um, but I don't think I'm the best person to really give an answer to that. I could probably give you an answer, but I wouldn't feel confident in that answer being, um, I guess, the most accurate it could be. And I think not giving advice is better than giving bad advice. So I probably would rescind on kind of giving you kind of an objective yes no. From my loose experience, it works really well, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I haven't used it since the R60s were reworked, though. I think it's probably the best that Russia have. It's better than the MiG 23M by a country mile. Um, but I haven't used it to an extent where I could be kind of comfortable saying yes. I think it's you'll have a good time consistently. I had a good time with it, but my kind of small, I guess, time frame in using it is not enough to justify a good enough answer. So I think I probably won't. I wouldn't feel comfortable saying yes or no. But I think if I were to like have a gun to my head and sort of say yes or no, I'd probably say yes. I would probably say yes. I mean, direct this towards Mike. I can't make him here. I have been, and other people have been saying to him to make a stream in the week for many, many, many months, and he hasn't. So, badger him, because I can't really do anything, I'm afraid. Is the 76 Jumbo worth playing? I think so. I think it's a vehicle that is often kind of unfairly shafted. I think a lot of people see the BR and think it's useless, but it isn't. It's a platform that's incredible. It's one of my favorite vehicles in the game, the Jumbos, even the at 6.0. And I mean, if you can play that thing in a way that maximizes the armor, it works incredibly well at that battle rating, like without fail. Um, I really, really like it. I mean, the short stabilizer, angling the armor, putting pressure on, and the gun at 6.0 really isn't even that bad. And I think a lot of people kind of just think that, it's going to be fighting Heat FS constantly and that kind of thing. And I mean, it will fight vehicles that fire Heat FS, but it is in a very good place to combat them. And I think it's great for what it is. I mean, frontally, if it's angled, there are tanks around that BR that will really struggle with it. And if played well, there's very little it can't do. And I mean, it has the mobility as well to play the sidelines. I mean, most heavy tanks can't do that. And the 76 Jumbo has the ability to sort of play wherever in that sense. And I really, really like it for that. And I think once you kind of get the hang of where you need to put it, angling it and not over angling the side, you can have some incredible games, even at 6.7. I mean, sure, you're going to struggle against KTs and Jagdpanthers and that kind of thing. But against the majority of the vehicles that you'll fight, if you have good positioning, that vehicle will do a lot for you. And so I think it's definitely worth it. I've always loved that tank. I think I probably always will. It fits me almost perfectly, I think. So it's fantastic. You just need to put it in its element. And the best thing about it is that it has the mobility to be in its element. And yeah, I'll probably get some better thoughts on it when I've played it again, because I haven't played the vehicle. Well, I haven't played the long jumbo for quite a long time. But yeah, so I'll have some rescinded advice for that soon. I think when I play the tier 4 for the video. But yeah, in short, I very much like it. There we go. Yes. Thoughts on what tree to go for? Well, it depends sort of how far you are in other trees and what you really want from the game and how much time you have. Because I think you don't really need to have. I think when playing this game, you don't really need to have the goal of getting to the end of the line to enjoy it. And I think that's a hurdle a lot of people kind of run headlong into, is that you don't beat the game by getting to the end of the tree. You know, in a game like this, um, it's just not the case. In the same way that, like, the example that I usually use is that you can have two different people who, you know, one of them maybe, so two people want to play the British tree. One of them wants to play the Lightning for whatever reason. They love the Lightning, quintessential icon of the you know, the late indigenous British aircraft designs, and it's going to take them a long time if they're new to the game to get to that point. It's going to take them weeks, maybe a month, and so, you know, it's going to be a long road to get to that point, to get to that plane. Or you can have one player who really wants to play the Spitfire Mark One. You know, loves the Battle of Britain, wants to play aircraft that are in that sort of area, and really wants that plane. And that player can get there in an afternoon, and they've got what they want. And if you kind of deconstruct it to that basis, you don't need to set your sights, I guess, that high as a default. And I think it's really, I guess, overall, really is a hurdle, I think, to people who want just to get to the end of the line because they feel like, you know, they have to. Because vehicles in this game, they don't really scale in that way. In the relative to the BR, the Chaika at 2.0 is better than, well, the Lightning at 9.7. And along sort of on that basis, you aren't sort of steadily getting better technology in the same way that, like, if you're playing, I don't know, Call of Duty Zombies or whatever, you know, you're starting with like that terrible little pistol and you're ending up with like some, you know, laser gun or whatever, but you're still fighting the same enemies just with more health, etc. So, you know, in getting lit further down the line, you're not sort of getting better technology, you're just getting different technology. I mean, maybe that technology is cooler to you, and in that sense, sure, that's great. But it's not necessary, and I think it just depends on what you want with the game and how much time you have. So yeah, I guess that's a very sort of roundabout way of answering the question and sort of giving you quite a non-answer with that. But I don't think it's, you know, whether you want to get to the very end of the line or not, I mean, that's up to you. But the Leopards are pretty good. And if that's really what you want, then I think, you know, you wouldn't really go too far wrong by that. Okay, they're actually getting married now, so bear with me. I will be quite slow on responses. Oh, bless. Oh. Okay, that's adorable. They're saying stuff. I don't know what they're saying, but I'm clapping for it. So for context, I'm watching my aunt's wedding. I should have been there, but coronavirus had other ideas. So I will be vicariously being there in spirit. They're live streaming it, which is very, very sweet. So I will sort of be checking that out here and there. Have you been able to play the new Buccaneer? Not yet. Probably quite soon. It's got a lot of well, interesting aspects to its performance. I think a lot of people kind of looked at it and thought, you know, had a bit of a little tantrum about it for their own little ways. But I mean, as a vehicle, I think it definitely has a lot to offer, and hopefully a lot of people will have a bit of fun with that. I think. I hope, anyway. But we'll have to see. Anyway, what a sort of shush. I don't know. I like stuff like that. And the thing is, it's like, you know, with weddings and that kind of thing, with the individual people, in that sense, it only happens once. And, you know, I'm quite a, I don't know, a sentimental person like that. I don't like missing stuff because, you know, time is quite finite in that sense. And if you miss something, you've missed it and you can't really ever get that back. Like, I will never be at this wedding. And so it's a little sad that I'll never be there in whatever time, you know, however it works. Crazy how time works. So, yeah, I like sort of being around for that kind of thing. So I will sort of keep that on intermittently. When does the lag will be an event vehicle? Which lag? We already have a lot of lags. We have, including the i301, we have 4 premium lags. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we do. I think a lot. Is the MX30 Brennus any good? Um, if it's played very very passively, it does have a decent amount that it can do. It's still not incredibly strong though. Like well, the lack of stabilizer really kills it ultimately in what it can really do, because as a vehicle like that, stabilizers are kind of the bar for competency at that BR bracket. Um, so if you kind of play in a way that mitigates that, it can snipe. It's got a laser rangefinder, decent dart, thermals as well. That will kind of nullify that drawback, but it does mean that you can't really be as reactive as a vehicle like that sort of could be with its other advantages. I mean, the ERA it's got is actually kind of good. It's a hard vehicle to one shot as well. So I don't think it's a vehicle to kind of set your heart on, because there will be situations and maps where it won't exactly have the most applicability in the match itself. If you are in a situation where you can brawl, that thing can brawl, but it can't do it reliably, and that's a really difficult thing to counter. So I think it's a vehicle you should get to kind of pad out the lineup, but I don't think at the same time it's a vehicle that you should aim to get, because it's very difficult to make it work consistently. Because it can't really do that to a degree. I like it though. I like its playstyle. It does work quite well for what it is, quite passively. Um, but yeah, I like it. I don't think it's incredible, but it's got a place, and I think if it's played conservatively, it can get a lot to offer. Get a lot to offer. Well, has a lot to offer. Trick. One lag that I really want to see actually is that it was a really old suggestion, and the Japanese captured a lag in their war that had the 37 mm, the 23 mm anti-tank version in the nose. That would be a brilliant premium. Sure, it's captured. People have a bit of a cry about that, but it's unique. It's really, really, really nice. And I would love that as a premium for Japan. Maybe like in the mainline tree for Russia, and as a premium for Japan, because they did capture one. They actually did capture one. And how amazing would that be? Like Japan having like gun casts. Hell yeah, I'm all about that. I would love that thing. Um, what else was? What do you think about the CA Lorraine? Yeah, I don't like that vehicle in the sense that I think, I mean, well, long reload, terrible armor, and mobile. And that is probably one of the worst combinations for a tank in this game. I think tank destroyers that have another limiting factor other than, well, mobile tank destroyers that have a very limiting factor are very, very difficult to use. Things like the JPZ-45, the Sturo Mill, CA Lorraine, they're very difficult vehicles to make work. It's really mobile, the gun is great, but it can't really do much in that situation because the reload is just so long. And the thing is, I think that thing should have a longer reload, because it has single piece ammunition, a really large open space, and 2 loaders. So why is the reload like 13 seconds? I don't get that. Actually, that's something I want to bring up to one of our gameplay developers. I need to make a note of that, actually. I'll do that later. But yeah, I think it really should have a shorter reload, because, the Jagdpanther 6.0, CA Lorraine 6.3, excuse me? I mean, CA Lorraine has a lot going for it in that sense. I mean, gun's great, mobility's great, but it can't really utilize anything beyond that, because sure, it can get itself into a great position in the map, but that reload is not going to, let it excel in that position. I think that's its biggest failing. So it's not exactly something that, works incredibly well. It's a difficult vehicle to use, and I think it does deserve some kind of handhold. So yeah, I mean, I can see what you mean. Like, I can kind of get the grievance with it in that it's not exactly an excellent vehicle like that. But yeah, has its faults, has its advantages, but I think it does deserve a bit of a reload reduction. I mean, with the amount of time it takes in the tiny cramped turret to reload the ready rack on the regular Lorraine with a single loader, it does deserve a bit of a reduction, I think. So I will have a look at that. I've got a list of things I want to bring up actually. And I think no, that's already in my list. Fine, then ignore that. I'll do that later whenever I can. Hmm. Right. Sorry, I'm still intermittently checking on the wedding. Oh, bless. Yeah, uh, the groom, who's not in my family, well, not my family yet. He's got a lot of family in America, so they did a live stream so they can sort of tune in, which is quite sweet. Hello, Hobo. How's it going? Yeah, the JPZ in a good spot is really strong. I think back like 3 or 4 years ago, I put that in the my worst like vehicles list, like top 20 worst vehicles, and yeah, it was not in the best position back in the day, but now really strong. It loses the stock APCR, sort of very low BR for what it is. Great reader, great mobility, low profile. It's got a lot going for it now, and I would definitely take it out of that list. I want to make another one of those actually, because those list videos are quite fun. But the thing is, it's like those list videos at the same time feel like lazy content. It's like I know people will watch them and they don't really do that much, but I kind of had fun making them. Maybe I'll make some more. I don't know. I do quite like them. So maybe we'll give that a go. Um, Mikey, hello. I'm trash at the game. Got any advice? I'm not very good at giving black and white advice like that. What kind of area of the game are you playing? Naval, aircraft, tanks? What's your sort of goal? I can try and help a little. Hello, Sonar. How you doing, dude? How's the spading progression coming along? Good, I hope. Better be. Oh, terrible. Doing good. Unlocking France. Very cool. 3 planes left. Excellent. You're getting there, my man. Very cool. Very cool. I'm a fan of this. What else do we got? Tips on flying with keyboard so I can look around while flying. What I do is that I have my elevators bound to the shoulder buttons on my mouse. So that way I can kind of hold C and then I can look around while still maintaining my turn angle. And that way I can still perform all the maneuvers that I can while only having like 3 keys on the keyboard, or 3 fingers on the keyboard, as the others are on my mouse. That's what I do. And that really gives me a lot of potential to be able to look around constantly while still maneuvering. And yeah, I think one of the most important things, what are they manually? I think they're page up and page down. I think that's what they were when I first started playing. Maybe there's something else now, but I think they're page up and page down. Oh no, yes, you're right. They were changed to WNS like a long time ago. Back when I first started playing, WNS was the throttle control. I still have it as the throttle control. But yeah, that's what I have them as. It's just that way I can kind of, because having all of the aircraft controls on the keyboard does take a lot of coordination, and kind of having some on the mouse takes some of that pressure off when you're maneuvering, and I find that really, really helps. So yeah, that's what I do. I think one of the best things for maneuvering like that, and well, sort of dogfighting in general, is keeping your view on the enemy at all times, because if you don't know what they're doing, you can't react. Well, you can't react to them, and so you need to have your eyes on them the entire time to be able to react well and counter what they're doing, and that's one of the most important things I think, at least for me, in fighting in the air. So taking some of the pressure off, sort of one hand, I guess, is one of the most important things I think for me. So that's the thing that I do. But yeah, it's really, really hard, absolutely. And I think the best thing to do if you're learning it now is find and stick with a way to do it, because the way I do it probably would feel alien to a lot of people, but it's second nature to me now. So I think that's probably, yeah, I think if you're in a position right now where you're kind of getting the grips with it, that's what I would do is to practice it, make sure you know exactly what you're doing in a way that feels comfortable with you, and really stick to it. Because if you if you're changing it all the time, it's still gonna feel uncomfortable. So that's probably what I would do in that position. That's what I did. it felt really alien to me at the time, like having the elevator buttons on my mouse. But after a while, it's second nature, and I can fly really comfortably with it. And I think, I mean, I don't want to say play it like me because I mean there are people that don't fly like me and fly better. I think kind of limiting the input on both hands does take some of the pressure off. And if you do have shoulder buttons, I would recommend using them like that. And yeah, that's what I would do anyway. Very long answer to a very simple question, but yeah, that's how I would go about it. Um, but the Cheetos on your list of bad vehicles, Cheetos are very, very good. I love the Cheetos. Incredible vehicles. They just don't really play well brawling, I think. And a lot of people get kind of caught up on that, but they're very good. I like them. I do like them. All right, see Roxy, congrats on your aunt. Have a good day. You too, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, I forgot how tiny she was. She's very small, actually. I forgot how short she was. Oh, bless her. She's got a very lovely dress as well. That's really nice. Oh, they actually look really, really happy. That's adorable. Okay, that's actually absolutely wonderful. Okay, I'll keep an eye on this sporadically. I don't want. I mean, obviously, this is my job. Stream is effectively my job, and I don't want to, you know, kind of supplant that. But I mean, I want to kind of be there a little bit for this. So forgive me a little. Where's the venue? I can't remember exactly. It's somewhere in Cheshire, I think. It's a really nice kind of a rural venue in Cheshire. Very, very nice. Yeah, I think it's. Have I muted it? I have muted it. Okay. Yeah, it's a really nice place. Um, did I mention that I killed a Harry with a lag 3 a few days ago? Very nice. Very cool. I do like the early lags. They're not exactly the most agile vehicle, but the 20 mil really does do a lot of work, especially at the tier. Really good stuff. Oh, they're walking. They're doing the aisle walk. Oh, oh, very sweet. Okay, I will retain focus in a second. I'm just oh bless. No, there's my little cousins as well. Tiny Babs. One of my cousins is called Hats, which I think is very sweet. It's shortening of the name Hattie, but she's just called Hats, like as in hat, but multiple of them, and I love that so much. She's just called Hats, and that's fantastic. I love that a huge amount. Anyway, um, service is wrapping up, and I will retain my focus. Anyway, I love the Soma SM, one of the best tank. Yeah, Soma is hugely forgiving as a vehicle. Not quite hyper forgiving because of the weak side armor, but from the front, if you can get that thing into a good spot, Christ, it does work. Really good work. Like great reload, great gun, great frontal armor, hugely powerful. It's like one of the best premiums I think. Those tier 4 like heavy premiums are some of my like favorite I think overall in the game. Like you've got the IS-6, not so much now. But, you know the KT SLA, like the Soma, really good vehicles. Like I really recommend that one enough. Really recommend that one enough. My brain sometimes just goes too quick and then skips out words that it thinks I don't need. But yeah, I think it's crazy good. Yeah, try the controls. I mean, I could probably. I mean, if you have Discord, you can send me a message on there, and I can send you a file of the controls that I use. Although that might mess up all of your other controls, so maybe not. But if you want to do that, I will. I can send you those. Um, but yeah, just let me know if you can find me on there. I try my best to stay hidden on Discord, but if you can find me, you can send me a message, and I will send that to you. But yeah, if not, just yeah, up to the top shoulder button, down to the bottom shoulder button, and that's what I go for. Mhm. So, Oxy need help at 47 planes. I'm playing the P47, but I can't make it work. Trying B and Z, but zeros in the key 100. Key 84s raises me. The the P-47s are some of my favorite vehicles for the air. Deceptively agile, I think, but not against Japanese planes at all. You kind of need to bank on that first pass because the thing is, um, the P-47 can turn, but it only has a few turns in it before it really starts to stagnate in energy. So for the Japanese planes, you need to make that first burst really cripple them. So it can be tricky like that. I think for the P-47, generally, it needs to maintain that first level of altitude in the initial, like, first stage of the match to maintain that climb. Really good angle climb. And then from there, with flaps, that thing can be really maneuverable. Maybe not agile, but maneuverable in the sense that you can, it's very capable to get the guns on target. But I think you need to be very, very cautious in approaching zeros and that kind of thing, because if you use too much energy trying to follow them in a dive or in a turn, they will eventually catch you. And because the Japanese planes are so light, they do retain a lot of energy like that. So yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky vehicle to kind of play if you're used to other vehicles, but as long as you can get enough initial energy in that climb and maintain enough of that energy as possible, because the thing is, the P-47 is very, very, very quick. It's a very agile, not agile. It's a very, well, what's the best way to describe it? Because I haven't played them for a while. I don't play aircraft enough to kind of formulate in my head the best way to describe how they work. But as long as you can maintain that energy, it's a vehicle that will do a lot of the work for you in that sense. You just need to make sure that you're not bleeding too much of it, I think, following enemies in that kind of in the dive, because that's really easy to do in a lot of aircraft against Japanese planes, because they're very maneuverable in the way of sort of dodging incoming fire and dodging guns, and they do make you bleed a lot. So as long as you know when to pull off in that sense, and you're not following them and bleeding that amount of energy, you can maintain a lot of it, because that plane gets caught out when you've bled too much speed. At the lower speed, you can dogfight some of the heftier planes, like the 109s and that kind of thing. But against like the really light enemies, it's going to struggle. So I think maintaining that energy is the most important thing, and knowing when you can actually bring that dogfight is important as well. And I think it's just learning the enemies. It's learning those enemies, and yeah, I think I'm overcomplicating it in my head. But yeah, as long as you can keep the energy for as long as possible and know when to stop engaging, that's really, I think, the bare bones of making it work. And everything over that is just sort of over complicating it, I think. So that's probably what I would start out with. That's probably a very, like, not the best bit of advice, but I haven't used them enough consistently. I've only really used them for CAS in the last few years. So yeah, it's I don't think I can probably give the best advice on it, but yeah, maintaining the energy, getting a really strong initial climb is probably a good foundation. Good foundation. 134 views on an official stream. Yeah, these streams are always nice and quiet, I think, because I mean, this isn't really a stream, I guess, in the normal ways, because there's nothing to look at. So it's very boring if you want to sort of just look at some gameplay, because there's no gameplay. It's just sort of talking about stuff, and I kind of like that. I think these streams wouldn't work if they had a lot of people watching, because I'd miss every comment, and then it will just get even more boring than it already is. So yeah, I mean, middle of the day, I quite like this. It's meant to be a sort of a quiet little stream for when people in, well, America wake up, effectively. So it's sort of like a morning thing, I guess. Sort of little start to day like that, and I like it. And I have a nice time on these. It's my social interaction of the week, which is pretty good. So I like it. What did I miss? Yeah, so no, I'll check that. I will do. Absolutely. Is the T-29 American heavy tank worth getting? Yes, it is. It's like the Soma and the Tiger SLA. It's an incredibly effective vehicle. It's really forgiving, decent enough mobility. The gun will carry it a lot, as long as you know like where to aim on some of the trickier vehicles, like the KTs and like the T-54s, etc. Really, really good. As long as you don't kind of push too far into the sort of enemy lines, because if you get caught out on the flank, you don't cripple in the first shot. It's very tricky. It's very tricky to use in that sense, but as long as you can kind of stay on the front line and stay around cover, so that when you fire, you can back off and you're not going to get pushed while you're on reload, it's a really, really forgiving vehicle, and I think it's well worth it. Really, I mean, as a product, not so much, because tier 4 premiums don't have the best advantage anymore. I think because they don't really have enough longevity. Because in rank 5, there's not really that many vehicles, and in rank 6, there's a lot. So tier 4 premiums that cannot effectively research rank 6 are not in the best place anymore. They're still really good, but they're not as valuable, I guess, as assets. I think if you are going to get it, I would get it and then talisman something in rank 5 or rank 6. If you are going to sort of, use it as a product like that. But the armor that it has, as long as you don't, play too recklessly, is really forgiving. You just need to make sure that you're not pushing in too far, because the thing is, it's the reload. If you get caught on reload, if you get caught at the side, there's not a lot you can do. But if you can mitigate that by staying at the front lines, taking a strong angle in the map, it's going to do a lot for you. And you also need to know what you can afford to, push and what you can't. Against chemicals, you can't really afford to push. But against a lot of the APHE, I mean, you've got a decent shot at brawling with that. So yeah, I think it's still a really strong vehicle. Still a really strong vehicle. Opinion on the Breda 501? I really like it. It's a really fun vehicle. It plays quite uniquely. It's got a great gun for 4.0. It just obviously has no armor and quite poor defensive mobility. It's a wheeled vehicle, obviously, but it is quite mobile, but it's not immensely defensively mobile. I think, in that if you get caught out, it's going to take a while to back off. I think the best thing about it in that sense is that it has quite a wide slewing rate on the cannon, so it can angle left to right quite comfortably. So it does have that going for it, which is quite good. Gun's great as well. It's a really fun vehicle to talisman as well, because again, it's a vehicle that works in up tiers. It's got the gun and the mobility to work at 5.0 quite comfortably. It will struggle a bit with some of the new new vehicles we'll be seeing. But if you can make a really strong initial push, catch enemies at the side, that gun will one-shot a huge amount of time. And it can be played in that sense quite, very well defensively and aggressively, because you can catch enemies off guard, with the 90 at the side, one-shot them quite effectively, or you can snipe with it, which will keep you alive longer, and you still have the potential over range to do a lot of damage. And so it's a versatile vehicle in that sense of being able to play in many ways in the map. The only thing you need to be sort of aware of is playing around non-linear sightlines, either, areas of the map that can be engaged from lots of different positions, because it can't really engage from multiple different it struggles to engage enemies from different angles effectively. So it needs a linear sightline to engage from, because if enemies can be coming from your left side or right side, then there's not a lot you can do. So keeping it in an area that can sort of guarantee that you'll be meeting enemies from the very front, that's really the way to go. And that's what I would go with. But yeah, really good vehicle, fun one to play. I definitely get it. Why did the number of up tiers increase a lot since the battle pass hit? Well, they haven't increased in a functional way at all. It doesn't work like that, even in any case. I mean, up tiers for what they are capped at the sense that only a quarter of any team can be up tiered. So by that definition, they can never be increased at all. It doesn't work like that. And that formula can't change. So it's not that there are more up tiers, it's that you're playing at a BR that is sort of disproportionately stagnated, in that there's less vehicles being played at that point as a cap, and more being played above it, less being played above it as a cap, which means that you will be up tiered to that point more effectively. It's literally just the point that you're playing, and it goes with popularity. I mean, it's the way that it works. It's impossible to fluctuate, in that at a basis, you will get more or less up tiers. It just depends on what people are playing, and the pool of people who can be top tier, and the pool of people that can be not top tier. It's a 75% chance that you're not top tier at any given time, and that never changes. So it's just the point in which you're playing. It's not linked to the battle pass at all. It's just what's currently popular. So there's no other kind of secret scheming like formula at play that's making that happen at all. It's just what's being played, and that's it. There's nothing else that can go into it. So, I mean, it's not, that's not really an answer that's perception based. I mean, this is happening. But that's it. That's just how it works, and that can't change. Any tips for a beginner? It depends on what you're playing in the game, like aircraft, tanks, ships, like what mode as well. There's probably a very long answer to give there, but I probably can't give you a very accurate one. So, yeah, what area of the game are you looking to play with initially? And I can try and help. Best for getting Silver Lions, AB, RB, or SB? AB, I think minute by minute will get you more because you're performing more actions, and you have the potential to get more wins because the match time is shorter. So, yeah, I think probably, well, it depends. If you're very capable at RB, you'll probably earn more there because the reward multiplier is a bit better. But if you just want to kind of power through AB and, obviously stay in the matches and get more, get wins, etc., you will potentially get more. But RB has sort of a more consistent level if you are sort of comfortable or confident at playing it, I think. So AB effectively has the most, but RB probably has the most consistently anyway. Any tips for T-34? The Russian ones, they work on a kind of reaction time window, is what I like to call it. In that, to make that thing work, you need to make its armor work effectively. And to do that, you need to keep on the move and keep it at an angle. If the T-34 is still, it's a very easy target for anything to get through, really. Well, not anything, really. But the turret cheeks are very, very weak. 45 millimeters. So pretty much any contemporary gun can get through those. So to make that thing work, you need to keep angled, you need to keep on the move. If you're being scoped in by an enemy, you need to keep moving forward, keep moving backwards to make sure that the angle of your armor is constantly changing. Because if an enemy knows they need to, say, hit your turret cheeks or your front plate, if you keep driving an angle, the angle that your armor will take is perpetually changing. So that means they are constantly switching in their head the best place to shoot you. And in your enemy, that is making them think a lot about what they're doing, and that's going to slow their reaction time down, it's going to slow their shot down, and then you can fire back in that window. So the reaction time window works on the principle that you either rush your enemy into firing inaccurately, or you make them waste so much time that you can fire back at them. And the T-34s work incredibly well on that principle. So you need to keep on the move, and you need to keep, rushing your enemy into firing at you, and they work really well like that. And that's pretty much how I get the most, how the most success is sort of garnered from using them. As well, avoid angled ground, stay on flat ground effectively. It's got very low gun depression. Playing at angles, you can sometimes get some shots off, but it's unreliable, and you need to keep flat to get the most, the most tangible benefit out of using a vehicle like that. For using the guns, you have the option of 2 rounds effectively. You've got the MD8 fuse and the MD5 fuse. The MD5 fuse is sort of like a pseudo Hesh round in that the fuse is very, very narrow fuse, I think is how I would describe it, in that round can get through a lot of angled armor very, very quickly, or very easily rather. Less penetration, but you can get through angles very comfortably. The MD8 round is more reliable, but it does do less damage. I like that one a little bit more. I think I use that one a bit more. I like that quite a lot. You'll rarely struggle using that round for the 1941 and 42, etc. And the STZ as well. So that's, those are the rounds that I would use. For engaging with enemies, you can pretty much aim center mass on a lot of them, apart from maybe the Shermans. You need to aim for some of the weak points there. But the one thing those rounds are good at is getting through angled armor. So if you can see like an angled Panzer IV or an angled Sherman, you can most likely get through the the side armor very, very easily. And if you do that, it will usually one shot as well, because those rounds have like just under 100 grams of filler. So they'll one shot very consistently. So all you need to really keep in mind is, using the slope modifier, keeping on the move, making yourself a difficult target to get through effectively, and avoiding the angled terrain. And that's, I think, if you can kind of master that, you can get a lot of use out of it, I think. I would say so. That was a very long sort of run on answer. I don't know why that happened. Yeah, I mean, like, it probably sounds really pretentious, but like, if you can play the mind game in War Thunder, you can beat anyone. And, well, maybe not anyone, but it works really, really well. If you can predict what enemies are going to do with you, especially with aircraft as well, you can really kind of take even really good players by surprise. And it's like, I think it's even easier to take good players by surprise, because if you're really sort of comfortable, I messed that up in the worst way possible. If you're comfortable with the game and you know roughly how it works and you know how enemies are going to react to you, if you can act in such a way that kind of doesn't fill that kind of, I guess, prediction, you can really mess even really competent. Christ, I can't get that right. Competent players up every time. And so, yeah, the mind game has a really strong place in War Thunder, and it's really underutilized, I think. But it has a really strong place, I think. Really strong place. It's a pretentious thing to talk about, I think. Is it just sort of sounds like a pseudo-intellectual thing to say? But I mean, it works. It really does work within reason, and I like it. I like kind of putting that aspect into the game. Yes. Why does the M46 Heat have the same velocity as the regular AP round? I've got no idea. If it's a technical question, I'm not really that sort of good at answering them, I think. My kind of knowledge of this game sort of ends at the functional aspects of it. Like, like how something functionally works rather than why it works like that. So, yeah, I'm not really that good at sort of why does this work this way in a sort of historical sense. If it's correct, I really don't know. I can't answer that particular question well, I think. Apologies. First time seeing your face? Well, yes, I'm sorry for the disappointment. I don't look like how I sound at all, which is quite jarring for some people, I think. But, I think it's a bug. They deleted my forum post. I think, well, the amount of bugs that are reported right now is huge, really. So I think for some of the old stuff, I think it's if it's a bug that's reported quite a while ago and it hasn't been gotten around to with the client version changing, I think it does get sort of archived effectively. But the thing is that I know a lot of the tech team quite well, and they get a huge amount of bugs. And the difficulty they face, excuse me, I'm really messing my words up today. The difficulty they face is that because so many bugs are reported incorrectly, either they don't have the files or they are just, not formatted right, the amount of kind of incorrect reports they have to sift through really slows things down. So, obviously, it's their job to do it. They do a really good job of it, but it is difficult for them to really, keep on top of exactly how many suggestions come through. So, by all means, please keep reporting bugs and issues with the game, but make sure that they are to the guidelines. Otherwise, they may not get responded to, and otherwise, it slows things down for everyone. So, yeah, you know what I mean. It's I guess an annoying thing to say, I guess, that you're I guess reporting things wrong, but I'm not saying you're doing that specifically, but I think in general it's a very common thing. It's a very common thing. So if you are thinking of it, just make sure you follow the guidelines. Otherwise, it can get a bit tricky and slow stuff down. What do you sound like you should look? I simply mean, do you think, like, what do I think I should look like? I don't know what I think I should look like. That's a very broad question. I don't really think about it. I don't really look at myself very much. That's why the picture of my face on the monitor is over there, and I intently try not to look at it. I stare at a point on the K50 at the background of this monitor when I talk, so I don't look at it. It just bothers me. I just don't like remembering that myself exists, so I ignore it most of the time. I don't really know. I have no answers to that particular question, I believe. Um, Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too. Is it the afternoon or the evening? Still the afternoon, I think. When does the evening start? 5, is it? I can't remember. I think it changes based on the season. Um, yeah, we've had no like really bizarre, um, no bizarre chat today, so that's quite good. Happy with that. I never spoke about my fish dream. I had a really bizarre, like very kind of existential dream about this fish. Well, it wasn't really about the fish. It was like tangent time. I think I got on a tram in Germany, and I fell asleep on the tram, and I woke up in my old town in the UK. But it was like a kind of bohemian version. It was a bit different. The buildings were all very clean, very white. Um, Very kind of sort of coastal aesthetic, and everything was bright. The sea was very bright kind of bright dark blue, if that makes sense. Um, you know, decently rough, but not exactly. You could kind of swim in it. Like it wasn't like, I guess, you could kind of have like a little rowboat on the ocean, how it was, and it was some kind of like fishing festival, I think. But it wasn't like a fishing festival. It was like a festival about fish, I guess. And so I felt quite alienated there because I didn't know anyone because I've been away for quite a while. And so I went to go and sit on the seawall, and the water was very very high up, and they had these kind of ruts into the ocean that was like a kind of, it was like a cheese wedge kind of sloping, and with like two kind of thick struts either side with like a shallower slope in the middle. And I think that was like a way to kind of go down, like launch boats or whatever. But the fish were kind of washing up there, and I found a fish in this bucket. It was strange because it was a common carp, which they don't live in the sea, and it was in a very shallow bucket. It didn't have much water because it was sort of placed at an angle, so the fish could only sort of sit in the defilade. Yeah, well, the deflator, like the depression in the bucket. So I picked it up and I leveled it out, and I kind of held it on my lap. I looked out at the sea, and then the fish like started talking to me, and this will sound like really stupid, but the fish said, "God has plans for the sea life too, you know." I thought, okay, and I sort of asked like, what do you mean? Like, what's the kind of goal there? And I can't remember exactly what it said because my memory in sort of speaking in dreams is quite difficult. I struggle to remember text, but I remember I asked the fish like, do we have the same God? Do you think? And the fish said, it was really like nice the way it said it was that it said sort of. I think it said, think of it like, in thinking about the God that we have, it's like we share a view. It's like, yeah, we share the same view of a different painting. It looks entirely different, but the paint's the same. And I think that's roughly what it said. And I thought, okay, so what does it really want? And it just sort of said, like, it didn't, I can't remember because the text, like, voices in my dreams fade very, very quickly. But it was something along the lines of that, it wanted, the plan eventually was to sort of just do its best. I think that's what the fish told me. It was like, I don't really think I have an ultimate plan in my life, which is ultimately quite short. But I think it's just to sort of do my best at whatever that is, and then that's it. That's enough. It was very vague at the end, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, that was sort of the vague sort of part of the dream about a very existential fish. In cod we trust. Exactly, yes. Yeah, I don't know why that was a dream that I had, but yeah. The thing is, like, I have very, very narrative focused dreams. This is a thing you can kind of, you can kind of do this. It's like, I think if you train yourself to do it, you can do it really consistently. If you kind of dream, well, if you write down your dreams as soon as you get them, they will form some kind of narrative eventually. And my dreams usually have a story to them. Like it's kind of start a dream, go to a place, something happens, finishing. Like the end of the dream. And if you kind of write your dreams down and you follow that kind of structure, you will eventually start having like very narrative focused dreams. So I kind of get stories from my dreams, which is kind of cool. And something I quite like, I've always liked, is that I have quite a vivid dreamscape. In that, in my dream, I can get a train, and I can get a train to a place I've dreamed about before, and it will be exactly the same. And I like that. Like I can make the choice to kind of take a bike, and I can ride somewhere into the countryside, and I've been to that place before, and a different thing will happen there, but it's the same. That I remember the scenery, and I tried to map it out once, but I didn't. I didn't ever finish that. I think I wanted to learn how to draw maps, but yeah, I like dreams. They're very very good for that kind of thing. That's just. I mean, my dreams are kind of constantly like that. They come in waves though. Sometimes I don't really dream much, but yeah, I like dreams. They're very sweet. I haven't eaten cheese for months. I thought it's probably because I don't have the cheese that I like here in this country, so I'm more sort of on a no cheese diet, I suppose. Um, but have you dreamed about it before, or are you just dreaming that you had a previous dream about it? I've dreamed about the area before. So I had a dream recently that I went to the countryside. It's like a meant to be a version of where I went to school. And in my previous dream, I went around with a friend there who I hadn't spoken to for a while, and we were investigating this kind of UFO sighting and some like old crop circle that was uh, kind of that appeared there like months ago, and there were still like remnants of it. So we went to go and have a look. We looked around the old local pub, and we saw like a picture of it, of something happening on the wall and stuff. We sort of asked around about it, and we went there in the dream, and I can't remember exactly because this one faded out of my mind, but we walked around for a really long time, and then we found where the crop circle was, and the floor opened up, and I can't remember what happened after that. But I had another one a few nights ago where I went back there again with with some other people, and we kind of sat in this. We were waiting for somebody to meet us there, and it was like at a service station, like about 10 minute drive away from the town. And we sort of sat in this like really dingy room for like hours, like playing some card game, and that was my whole dream. So yeah, I kind of go back to the same place in the dreams, and it's really interesting. I like it. I write them down a lot. Anyway, I should probably talk about the game now because we've gone very much off target. So, um, yeah, Prince, thank you. It probably won't because the next tier is quite small. So it will probably be quite quick, I hope. Um, let's see. I'll try and find some. Do you ever dream of War Thunder? I have sometimes. Um, I don't really. I usually have like a very similar style of dream when I dream about War Thunder. It's usually that like I've missed. Yeah, it's like that I've missed like an event, and I don't. It's like there's like loads of event vehicles and like stuff that I don't have, and people are asking me about them. Like, so what do you think of this? And I never got any of them. I can't answer the questions. It's usually like that. So like missing out, I think is a big thing for this game with me in terms of like the dreams that I have. So yeah, I don't dream about War Thunder very much, but those are the kind of the styles that I have. I did have a dream a few nights ago that I incidentally leaked the Operation Summer vehicles. I woke up like, oh Christ, what have I done? And before realizing it was a dream. But yeah, I don't dream about it very much, but sometimes. Hmm. Um, are the Shermans receiving a down tier, or will they stay there because the M4A376 was at 5.3? Um, maybe that one will be down tiered. I think the M4A2 is fine at 5.3. Really, I mean, the long 76 Shermans are some of my favorite, if not my favorite, vehicles in the entire game. They are incredibly versatile, and they do almost everything well for medium tanks. I love them. I think the the M4A5, M4A3. There we go. My brain sort of gives up. Haven't eaten anything today, so I'm all over the place. I think it's fine really at 5.3. I mean, the version at 5.7 has only real superficial advantages over the M4A2 76. So maybe, but I think it still does really perform okay, and it does have a lineup as well. So that's an important aspect for it. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen the data on that one. I'd have to check. But maybe down the line it will. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they perform really. But I know the Shermans are all, incredibly effective. And I love the long 76 Shermans. Absolutely. Will the Sherman Firefly ever get its APDS? I don't know. I don't know if that would hurt it more than not. Because the thing is, its gun at 4.7 is fine, really. And up tiering it with the Sabo, I don't know if that would make it worse. Because there's a decent lineup at 4.7 and it would kill its ability in the lineup. So maybe if there was another Firefly version that had it, maybe we could introduce that. I mean, the Italian Firefly gets it. So maybe there'll be another version that's slightly different that could be added with it. I think that's probably the best way to go. I don't think it's a good idea to give that version Sabo because it would, kill the lineup, and I don't think that would be the best idea ultimately. So maybe another version could be added. I'm not sure. Ultimately, I don't know if this version will get it though. Do you think there's a vehicle that's extremely difficult to master but extremely effective once you do? I think the Shermans are probably the definition of that, because the Shermans are very easy to misplay. Like the thing I usually say, I do look like a mime today actually. Yeah, I thought about that earlier. I do look very mimey, which I quite like. That was quite funny. But yeah, I think the issue with the 76 Shermans is that as vehicles, they don't really do anything for you, in that you need to actively have a sort of I guess an impact on what you're doing to get the most out of them. Like the armor won't save you if you're not angling, the short stabilizer and the gun won't work if you're traveling above the speed and don't know where to aim. And if you're not using the mobility in tandem with the stabilizer in a good position, you're not getting the most out of it. And I think the Shermans, to get advantages at every stage, you need to kind of be very aware of what you're doing. And if you're just driving out and pointing and clicking, you won't get that out of the Shermans. But if you do, and if you don't know what you're doing and you kind of know where to put the vehicle, you stay around the short stop distance, you know where to aim with the APHE, you know where to angle against what you're fighting, you can get some hugely good results. And I think the Shermans are really sort of indicative of that. And I really, really like them. I think that's probably my answer for that kind of vehicle, I think. Do you have the premium TU2 from the closed ground test? Yeah, I do. I have that vehicle. It's not premium, though. It's a gift vehicle. So it has no premium status. Yeah, I mean, Verizon vehicles that are in that. I mean, I know there are some vehicles in that list that have been in there for like 5 years, I think, almost, and they're probably not coming. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's not, planned, I guess, for a release ever, but maybe. Ma on YouTube says, "How do I be happy with myself?" Very broad question, and a question I don't think I'm fit to answer in your particular way, because I think we as people all have a different kind of plateau of happiness. And I think, at least in an honest way of existing, searching for happiness is not exactly attainable. Because happiness is a, well, by kind of design, it's a form of elation. It's a state change. Happiness is an elation from your normality. And so if you're perpetually happy, then that perpetual happiness becomes your normality. And then to feel happy, you need to, well, achieve more. It's like they say that I think the largest amount of money you can own while still getting happy from owning that amount of money is about $70,000. In that, if you get like 10, 20,000 above that, you won't feel happy. So your plateau will stick at that level. So I think looking for a degree of contentness is really what you should be aiming for, rather than being perpetually happy. Because happiness works at its best when you're, getting it in bursts. When a good thing happens, you can be proud of yourself. Otherwise, it's just it sticks at its sort of flat level, and it doesn't really help. So I think there's a lot of ways to tackle that in being happy, and I think something that I like to kind of well, I guess utilize in that sense of describing it is focus on the very particular joy of very little things. You can make a dick joke there if you want. I'll even do it for you. But I think focusing on the smallest things that you can do for yourself is a really good way to start, because you have the ability to do that. It's really like you hear people say it like a lot, and it's often quite lazy advice. But like cleaning your room, making your bed, that kind of thing. It seems very kind of it's like Jordan Peterson like tier advice, but little things like that help, and they snowball. Like doing the dishes, like doing the washing up. I never have an instance where I just do the washing up, and then it's like I don't want to do anything else now. I'll always do something else. I'll clean, and you feel accomplished like that. And I think the earliest stages of being happy is finding a task that you can do that you can't necessarily fail at, because you are guaranteed a positive response from it. So I think cleaning is a good thing to do, because you can't really fail at it. Like, organizing your room, doing some dishes, it's a thing that you've done. You've achieved, or you completed a task and you've received an outcome. And from that you can feel kind of accomplished with yourself for doing that. And it's a really simple thing to do, and I think that's a really good initial step to take. And I think one thing that I did for my shop, my Etsy shop, which I'm not running at the moment, but I did in the past, and I will return to in the future, is that I scrapbooked old articles. So I took old magazines that were kind of disheveled or like not in good condition, and I cut all of the pictures out, all of the articles out, and I sold them. And that was a really good thing to do, because at the same time I was achieving a task and I was doing something I couldn't necessarily fail at. And so it felt like I was accomplished while doing it. And if you're someone that struggles feeling content with yourself, focusing on a task like that gives you the ability to kind of guarantee that you'll get a positive response to what you're doing is a really good kind of initial step in the right direction for, feeling better with yourself. And as well, avoiding things that, to bring this back on track with War Thunder, avoiding things that make you deliberately unhappy is a great way to go as well. It's like, I think one of the biggest failings that a lot of people have, especially in a game like this, is that people will perpetually play something that they don't enjoy because it's effective. Just because, it's tricky. It's a tricky kind of thing to suggest, because at the same time you don't want to say play something different, but it's often a really good way to look at it, because it's like, if you're perpetually playing, or say for example that if you hate helicopters, you hate getting killed by helicopters, and you hate the top tier gameplay that comes around playing helicopters. If you force yourself to play it over and over and over again for whatever reason, then you're making yourself unhappy. And I think that's why in this game, I've kind of conditioned myself to enjoy all parts of it. I like low tier, I like mid tier, I like aircraft, I like naval, I like tanks. And so if I'm playing an area of the game that I really don't like, I can just say, well, I'll do something else that makes me happier. And it's like if I'm recording for getting gameplay or whatever, like if I'm playing a vehicle and it's not going well, I'll just stop and do something else. Because forcing yourself to do something that you're not enjoying will make you miserable. And it's why you'll see a lot of players who've played this game a really, really long time, they will get angry really quickly. They'll be having a great time, and then one bad thing will happen, and immediately it's like, wishing the Gaijin staff were dead, using all kinds of expletives. And it's because there's that kind of deep set kind of anger with the game that will just bubble up whenever one thing goes wrong. Because if you force yourself to play and you force yourself to do something you're not enjoying, and it's like, it makes you miserable. It really makes you miserable. And I think that's why if you approach this game in the sense that you play to progress rather than just play, you're doing it wrong. And I mean, I don't want to sit here and say you're approaching this game wrong, you're wrong, I'm right. I don't want to do that, because what I'm saying is a kind of subjective opinion. But you know, I think it's right. Obviously, maybe I'm not right, but it's still subjective. And so I think if you play this game just to progress and you just to get to the end of the line, you will treat every failure you make as a setback, and that becomes a job. In that, you know, if you drive out, you die, you lose. You know, whether you're, you know, grinding through the tree or you're a content creator getting you know, content for your video, whatever, and every setback will feel like a failure, and that you know, that weight accumulates, and it really keeps accumulating, and it will weigh you down if that's all you do when you approach the game, and you know, that kills enjoyment. And I think it's why the majority of players who've played this game for a really long time are generally kind of angry. And if you keep playing the game in that way, you know, you play your premium over and over and over and over again, every time you lose, it's gonna keep hurting. And so I think if you approach it in that way, it's gonna kill you. You know, you are gonna become an angry person to be around in this space, and I think that's not a good thing. You know, and I've seen loads of people I've played with in the past kind of get to that point. You know, there's a couple of streamers I used to watch a while ago, and not actually for War Thunder actually, and they'd play and they'd be like in a really good mood, and they'd die, and they'd suddenly get really, really angry for nothing really, in a way that you wouldn't if you were approaching the game in a very guess casual way. I mean, it's not really fair of me to sit here and say, you know, you're unjustified for feeling the way you do, because I can't do that. Everything's kind of everything's different in that sense. But I think there's a certain amount of kind of, I guess, game hygiene to take with yourself if you want to actually enjoy your time with this game. Because so many people don't take that into account, I think. And I mean, it's why after all of this time, I can play the game every day and not like just get mad at it. Because forcefully putting yourself into a situation that hurts you, whether it's like mentally or whatever, is just not, not good. And so, sure, like if you play your T72 terms over and over and over again because it's objectively the best, way to progress through the tree, sure, you are, progressing, I guess, functionally correctly, but you may not be progressing effectively for you because it becomes a job in that sense. You're doing something for the sole purpose of, getting more stuff. It's like that South Park meme of, what do you mean? Now we can finally play the game, And I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Because, it's why with like my videos or whatever, like if I ever just make videos to the point where it like becomes a job and I just play to like, make money or whatever, then like it sucks the soul out of it. I stop caring, and I don't like that. I don't want that to happen. And I think it's in the same vein as this, because whenever like I'm not in the right mindset to kind of record or whatever, then I won't do it because it will kind of ruin the headspace. And I think that's a really important thing to maintain. And, it makes me sad sometimes seeing people get like that. I mean, you can kind of say it's like, the passion coming through, but I think that gets disingenuous to a point. Loads of people are passionate about this game without approaching it in that way. And I think just be good to each other, And, something that's always upset me about this community is that a lot of people kind of propagate this environment of hostility towards everyone. In that if you're kind of positive about the game in any way, you can't integrate. Like I used to, when some of the streamers I watch, you see people come in and say, hey, I really like this game, it's great. And then you'll see, the stream and everyone saying, no, it's the worst thing I've ever played. The developers are barely human. Don't give them your money, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, sure, you can have that perspective, and I don't want to be the person to say that's wrong. But like, it just makes me sad that people have that attitude towards people who are trying to enjoy something. And it's why that I think in my I guess, position in this game, I've always just tried to make it more fun for people. You know, just like that's why it's why I make guides. It's why I make guides because um sorry, I don't want to make this about myself in any way, but I think it's an example that I can kind of present as why I try to do this. Is that I want people to enjoy the game because I love it. It's why I gave up my entire life to move to Germany and work for the people who make it. Because I love it. And I want people to be able to enjoy it as much as I do. And I think, you know, it's a difficult position because I don't, at the same time, I don't want to sit here and say, think like me or you'll be angry, because that's unfair and I can't do that. But at the same time, I guess, if you can try, I guess, and play the game in that way, then I really think you can get so much more out of it. Because, you know, hopefully you can kind of see my perspective, because I don't want to just flatly say there's a correct and incorrect way to play this game, because I don't think that's the case, because it's subjective. People play this game for different reasons. It's you know, it's really tricky. It's a tricky kind of I guess position to be in, especially. But you know, there are so many things about this community as a whole, and I don't mean anyone in particular at all, because some people's vitriol and anger, I think, to a degree, for them is justified, and I don't want to kind of be here and like passively attack anyone. That's not what I'm doing, and I don't want to do that. But it just does really make me sad, and I think to integrate into this community the kind of vocal minority of the game that you exist in, it kind of forces you to be unkind. I mean, in pretty much every single instance I see about people like trying to praise the game, they're shouted down by, you know, a collective of people that are conditioned to hate it. And by that point, you know, whether you're in someone's Discord or you're on Reddit or, you know, you're on a stream, you don't want to be the odd one out that says the thing against everyone else. And so you'll kind of think to yourself, okay, to fit in with these people, I can't be like this. And that to a degree is kind of heartbreaking, because I work with these people. You know, I work with these people who make the game. And obviously, like, the things people say towards the people who work here are sometimes really horrible. And obviously, people say those things in a fleeting way. Like, sure, they can say it out of anger. I don't think they really mean it. But people still say it. I mean, that's there, like, on the internet forever. And people are going to read that and think, oh, this person who I look up to and trust is probably justified. They know more than me. I'll hate them as well. Okay. And it kind of, obviously I'm really oversimplifying it, but I've been in this community pretty much longer than almost anyone. And sure, I mean, there's been so many mistakes that have been made down the line. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect at all, because it isn't. But the amount of kind of really intense unkindness that I see that's unjustified it just really, you know, really makes me sad. And I don't say that, again, I want to keep reiterating this because I don't want to, you know, make anyone feel like I'm, you know, being unkind or attacking anyone at all. But it just really makes me miserable sometimes, because I know how hard people try here to make a really good game. And I think, you know, there are parts of it that aren't great. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's perfect, you know. It was sort of one of the main things I said when I work here is that, you know, I'm not going to kind of watch what I say, you know. If I think something's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. It's always been the case. But I don't, it's difficult. I don't want to sit here and be, you know, just say effectively be better to each other, because that's like a really pretentious thing to say. But it costs nothing. And I mean, you should attack people though? No, and I mean, it's difficult. I just think, no, there are some things that I want to say about particular people in this community that do have voices, but I don't want to do that. That's not a position I want to have. You know, I don't want to be here from like an official position and say that some partners or whatever deliberately waylay the views of the people who watch them, whether that's true or not. I can't do that. It's not my place to do that, regardless of how true it is. But I just think that a lot of people by this point take a very unkind approach, and it hurts people. You know, it hurts the community, it hurts people who work here, and it's like, yeah. Well, there's numbers. There's something I'll comment on here. It's like ever since getting to kind of work here, and I do look at a lot of comments and you know, watch a lot of streams in my spare time. I like keeping up to date with people. And the thing that makes me sad is that you will see a lot of people who will speak with conviction about things they don't understand. And they will tell their community, this is how things work. And I know as a categorical fact on this side of the fence that it's not true. And they know it's not true because they're not in possession of all the information, well, not in possession, excuse me, of all the information. And so that all of their community that look up to them are now kind of encompassing a false philosophy that's hostile and wrong off the back of a kind of lie, well, not really a lie, a kind of untruth that's formed on the basis of like collective sort of cumulative hatred about the game and the company who make it. And so it's a snowball of negativity that never stops. And you know, it's difficult. It's a difficult position to be in. And I feel like I'm going in a bit of a circle here because I'm dancing around the things I wish I could say, but I can't really say because it's not exactly fair of me to do that. So I will take a breath and pour a bit more of my final beverage. But yeah, I mean, people who, I guess, why can't I? Because I don't want to use this platform to be unkind to people, because that sort of goes against the exactly what I'm doing. And I mean, you know, I don't want this to be a kind of negative space, I think. I don't think it's unkind, sure. I mean, coffee with Tom? Yeah, well, it's coffee today because we've run out of tea, unfortunately, but, you know. No, I don't think it's fair to say that people are a bit idiots in that sense. I just think a lot of this community is sort of deliberately waylaid or odd. I really appreciate that. Exactly. It's that no one learns anything otherwise. And I completely agree with that. I just think, I don't know, I mean, obviously a lot of game communities are like this, but there is so much hostility here on all fronts, you know, and I mean, I'm not going to pretend that the entire fault of that is, you know, on the community. There's been bad changes that Gaijin have made in the past, been really good changes they've made, been bad ones too, and you know, so there are things that are going to make people mad, but you can't really integrate unless you kind of hold this perspective, at least not for very long. And it's a really unpleasant kind of environment to be in a lot of the time, you know? And I think a lot of people like that weight really, really sticks with you. It really sticks with you. And, you know, people just get to a point then where they just become perpetually angry. Like there are some people that I watch in this game that are basically never happy anymore, and I remember them being happy. And I mean, it goes back to the initial argument of, I think, if you force yourself to play constantly and you're not having fun, if it becomes a job, then that's just going to happen. Because you are engaging with the possibility of frustration constantly. And I'm sure that's going to grate on you. That's going to grate on you. But, you know, it costs nothing to just not be unpleasant, really. It really costs nothing. I mean, I don't know. And part of me hopes that it's not kind of at a point where it's kind of too far gone, I think. But maybe it is, I don't know. I really don't know at this point. Because, you know, it's so ingrained. You know, it's really ingrained at this point that when I'm kind of reading comments from people who don't really understand what they're saying, but it's negative for the sake of being negative, because you are kind of told from a very kind of introductory point in this game that you can't be positive towards the people who make it, because, you know, everyone needs a bad guy. But that's the thing. It's like swearing at, you know, Gaijin and being unkind to Gaijin. It's like you can't hurt an idea. You can't damage a concept like that. And I think that's really what, you know, that's what a lot of people do. You know, it's like that's a really stupid analogy. I can't say that, but a lot of it eventually does seem like negativity for the sake of negativity. And obviously there's a foundation for that, of getting angry and whatever, but the amount of anger is unjustified, especially towards the individual people. Because a lot of people have absolutely no clue how anything works. Because, I know, sure, the counter argument to that is that in the absence of evidence, we will come to our own conclusions. But I think the issue there is that people think those conclusions are fact based on just because it's what they see. The argument I always go with is it's like the flat earther argument. It's like going to a horizon with your like eyes and looking at the flat plane and saying, well, there's no curve there. Obviously, there's no curve, judging by all the information that I have at my disposal. Whereas, you know, NASA or whatever can say, well, actually, we've been up there and we can see with all of this information that it does actually curve. Well, I haven't seen it, so I'm just not going to believe you. I only believe what I can see, so, you know, you're wrong. Sorry. But, you know, so if the kind of lightest and middle of the road milquetoast answer I can give is that just because you are in the absence of information for something, don't assume that the conclusion you come to is right because, you know, it's the one you've come to. Because so many people do that, and it's damaging, especially from people who have a voice. Because if you kind of present a loose idea as fact, then people who don't understand how to think for themselves will just encompass your idea and spread things that aren't true for everyone else who doesn't know what they're talking about. And it snowballs. It just snowballs so much. Yeah, milquetoast, it's spelt like that. It's like a very meek response, I think, ultimately. Yeah. And I mean, communication's probably not a strong point here, I think, over the years. But it stopped being, I guess it stopped being common when people started being horrendously unkind. And I watched that happen. You know, it's like, imagine like your job as like one of the community managers is like going to work today, well, every day is like opening a door to a room full of people telling you how awful you are for 8 hours and then closing it again. Do you want to kind of go back to work constantly like that? Probably not. And the people don't change because, well, people don't. And, you know, there's little I can do just here saying this, but the thing is, if the only thing that I ever do here is just have this conversation with the people watching, then just like, I don't know, it sounds super like, I don't know, cringy or whatever, but just be nice to people. Because you can simultaneously disagree with the choices that Gaijin make and still be kind to them. Because they are people. You know, if someone makes a bad choice, you know, do you like, you know, throw them under a bus? No, you don't. What does that achieve? You can be you know, you can disagree in every single sense and not be horrible to people. And that's such an easy thing to do. I mean, sure, there's a foundation of anger there from people. I can appreciate that. But I think everyone has the energy and the ability to kind of say, you know what, fine. And just not be horrible. It feels like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but this is an idea that's been in my head from for so long. And I don't think I've ever really formulated it in a way that's like, I guess, concise. But people, I know. I feel like it's not my place to say that some people are not as good as they could be. But I think we're all not good as they could be. I mean, everyone has their faults. People, I probably have my faults. I probably I'm not really very vocal enough, I guess. I mean, when I was a content creator, still am a content creator. I don't exactly take the front of I guess issues or whatever. I've never really done that. But there's several. I don't know, because I think literally all it takes sometimes is perspective for people. Because I think we all. So this is getting really pretentious. Like, I don't want to be here as some kind of pseudo intellectual self help moron or whatever. Like, I feel like I'm coming across like that a bit, but I don't want to. But it's like, if literally all you do over the next week, if you're someone who plays the game or whatever, if you like yell something racist when you get like shot, or if type in chat that you hope somebody's mother shoots themselves in the head or whatever because you're angry, just don't do it. How easy is that? I mean, sure, this game attacks your ego when you lose. I get that. It really does. And like, to kind of crawl and grasp back something, you want to hurt someone, It's like when you lose at something, you want to hurt someone. I get that that's a lot of, that's a lot of the mindset of competitive action. But, what do you get? What do you gain from that ultimately? You'll feel better for a few seconds, but then, what you said is there. And it really makes someone unhappy. It really makes a lot of people unhappy. The onus is on you, and like, even if it's a tiny thing, even if it's the case of just not saying, something stupid on Reddit and getting people to believe the stupid things you say, or saying something unkind in the War Thunder chat when you die, just, I don't want to say that I'm coming from a position of like, you should listen to me, because, I'm just another person here. It just so happens that I'm on this side of the fence rather than the other side of the fence. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to be. It sounds like such a simple thing, but you don't need to be that unkind to people. You just don't. I mean, sure, it takes some self-restraint, and I think that's an issue a lot of people face. It's, if you watch some streamers or whatever that will get angry or whatever, like in any game, World of Warships, World of Tanks, War Thunder, whatever, and they die, whatever, they'll get angry like that instantly, just like that. Maybe for some of it's because it's partially a reaction, but it's because that it builds up inside you. If you don't have an outlet, but there are better ways to get rid of it, than just being horrible to people. It makes me sad. I mean, like, maybe I'm a very emotionally juvenile person. I think I probably am, actually, I think. But it's so unjustified to me. Especially because I can see, because I'm like in the middle of it now. I can see how hard people work. We have a developer here in this office that doesn't leave until like 4 a.m. sometimes because he's working on stuff. So when somebody says like, I hope all the devs of this game die or whatever, do you really mean that? do you really mean that to the people who work hard on this stuff? Because regardless of whether they're making a decision you want them to make or not, they're working really hard. And it's not, what I kind of want to ultimately say is that the way to approach this is not just being unkind like that. Because you can, like I said before, you can simultaneously disagree and not be horrible. You can do that. Everyone is capable of doing that. And just because you may feel like the game and this community conditions you to behave like that to fit in, doesn't mean you can't break that mold, because you can. Because generally speaking, the people who are as angry as they are don't have the justification to be like that. A lot of people do. Some people do. You know? I don't want to say that anyone's feelings are unjustified. That's not, I can't do that. No one can do that. No one can say that anyone's feelings are unjustified, apart from something completely objective. This is not objective, you know? So, you know, I've overran a bit, but I feel like this is it's just an important thing that I want to talk about. You know, and I'm not under any illusions that this short conversation is going to change anything. But if I can just kind of, I don't know, plant one particular seed in one of your heads, that's worth it, you know? And I think, if I can be honest, it's this kind of mindset that I wanted to bring to this job when I got here. It's just that I've never seen any value in being unpleasant to people for the sake of it. I mean, obviously, like, being angry is monetizable for a lot of people. You know, people love to see people get angry. Because the thing is, like, it's like if you're annoyed at Gaijin for increasing repair cost or whatever, you want to see someone you like get angry at them, because that by proxy makes you feel better. Sure, I can understand that that's a tactic people use because it's what people want to see in some ways. I can see that. But it just really gets to a point where it makes me miserable, to be honest. Because, you know, it's like, for the sake of like us, well, broadly, if someone says, you know, PG stream, someone says, you know, F Gaijin or whatever, I hope everyone dies, hope they all get cancer or whatever. Do you, when you say that, because I'm 99% sure some of you here say that, do you mean that about me when you say it? About Gaijin in general? Because I don't think you do. And that goes for the same about anyone here who works here. You don't mean it about anyone in particular. Maybe you can attach a name to it because it gives your point more credence. But you don't hate me for, you know, being Gaijin. You want something to latch onto. I don't say this to any of you in particular here. I'm sure some of you have said it before. You know, you don't hate me. You don't hate anyone here who works here. I imagine basically none of you could name anyone apart from Mike and I who works in this office. Yet a lot of you hold the perspective of hating all of them. Obviously you don't, but that's how it comes across, and that's the problem. In that, you know, it's so unjustified. And I'm in the position of knowing these people. I know what it does to people. You hear that every day. You know? I mean, you can justify being unkind in any way you want, but it doesn't mean that it's an effective way to be to people. And I just think every single one of you, and every, like, disconnecting from, like, even the game and just in real life or whatever, it's like every single one of you has the potential to just make other people not feel awful, or like not feel worse, or not feel angry, or not feel upset, or not feel unwelcome in where they are. And the collective, I guess, just anger that people have here, it bleeds into every crack of this game and this community, and it sits there. You know, it doesn't go away. And it gets to a point where people are unkind for the sake of it because it's how they communicate. It's how you communicate with each other. And that's just, it's almost a heartbreaking thing. Because I've been here for so long, and people hold a lot of nostalgia for the old times, you know, the old times in War Thunder. When people say that 2013 was the best, the game's better than it was. I think a lot of people hold on to their perfect memories rather than actually looking at it to how it was. But I've seen a lot of people who used to be really happy get really sad, whether they work here or whether they just play. And I've kind of had to watch that from a distance and see people be like that to each other. And they really just, maybe I'm like overreacting, maybe I am, you know, but it just breaks my heart. I care about all of this here. You know, the game, the company, everyone who plays it, I want to make it better. Like, and it's really upsetting because everyone has the potential to just break out of this mold of being unkind, because it doesn't help. It really doesn't help. And I can appreciate it's difficult after so long to put your hands up and say, sure, let's approach this on a, you know, an amicable level. And I don't expect everyone to do that, because sure, it's really difficult. It can be really difficult for people. If you have that deep-seated, I guess, I know, just anger or whatever, it's difficult. I don't expect anyone to do that. But you can. Everyone here can. You know, it's just, I do really feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I apologize for that, but it's you know, I want as many people who are kind enough to take the time to listen to this to just think about it. Like, I'm not saying change the way that you are, because obviously I can't do that. I don't want to do that. But like, if every day, you know, if every day that you play this game and you feel like you want to write in chat something horrible, if you can just be, I guess, conscious that that's what you want to do and know that you have the option right there to do that, you know, if you can make the choice to not do that, or at least maybe say something better instead, you know, it's a tiny thing. But if, you know, you're playing against a lobby of like 30 other people or whatever, and you say something horrible, they'll think, oh, okay, well, everyone's doing it, I'll do it as well. It snowballs. Even if it's a tiny thing that you do, it snowballs, whether you're a content creator or someone that plays 2 matches a week. You all have the potential to do that. And I don't, maybe that sounds like I'm talking down to people. I don't mean that I am. I don't want to do that at all. And if you can just, you know, hold that thought, that's the most I can really ask for. So Bellicrafter there, I can see that perspective, and I don't disagree with it. But there used to be a lot of communication. But then people started getting awful. And I'm speaking out of turn. I wasn't there on this side of the fence at the time, but from what I understand, being a liaison for the community at the time was horrible, because people were still horrible to people, the staff or whatever. And, you know, after a while of, you know, opening your computer every day to like a flurry of abuse, do you want to keep doing that when you get nothing out of it? No, you don't. You don't want to do that. No sensible person would. You can fight that back with a question of, oh, but it's your job, but that's a moot point from my perspective, I think. Sure, maybe we can have a kind of communication renaissance. Maybe we can, maybe that's something I can talk about maybe doing or whatever. Maybe we can look into doing that. I don't know. I'm quite a sort of small cog in the machine here, sure, but I'm try. So, Bello, I can see that perspective absolutely, but again, I don't think it's justified. Because that alone is not, a free card to act like the way people act. I really don't think it is. Like, maybe I'll get in trouble for this stream. I don't know. I probably won't. People are generally quite happy to let me say what I want to say, but and I'm sure everyone here cares about this a lot. That's why you're here, You're engaged in the community to the point where you're taking time out of your day to talk with me, or rather just talk here, not necessarily with me. So you all care. Like, imagine if every single one of you, like, flipped. You didn't. I'm not saying that any of you do, but if you can all just, if everyone could just sort of instantly stop all the unnecessary things, because I don't think it's fair to say everyone should stop saying all the bad things about the game. Everyone should never mention repair costs, ever mention, progression or whatever. I think people should. I really don't think that's an issue at all. But it's the way that it's approached. And I think the core point that I can say generally is that every single one of you can be critical and be kind at the same time. Everyone can do that. Nobody can't do that. You get nothing out of it. And I think the kind of liaison staff here on the whole will be in a much better position to have better communication with everyone if they, were just a bit better. And I think I would really appreciate it if, even one of you can just think about it. I'm not saying change your entire mindset, like overnight, because people don't work like that. Most people don't anyway. But just, if you can think about it. Because no single one of you is worthless in the grander perspective of everything. Whether you think it's like saying, one nice thing is going to, flip the switch for everyone else, it's not. But I mean, it's a little light speck and everything else. The more people who do it might, it might snowball in the other way. I think everybody's perspective, no matter what everyone's perspective is justified, entirely justified in how you feel. You can say the whole facts don't care about your feelings, but it's a moot point. It doesn't matter. People think how they do because of what they've been through and what they know at the time. They may be objectively wrong, but that doesn't mean that you can kind of dehumanize their perspective, and I don't want to do that. So I think I've said everything I need to say on it. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. I'll think about it more. But there's a lot more that we can all do on every front. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over again. It's going to get boring. But, people always... One thing I always see is that whenever someone tries to go to someone and say, well, Gaijin has just shy of 2,000 vehicles in the game. And I will say, well, so what? So what? Who cares, Doesn't matter. But if you stop to think about what an incredible feat that is, to have that many interconnecting vehicles that can see each other and can fight each other and can interact and have individual interchanging, cause to effect scenarios where they meet each other. That's incredible. Like, there are games more complicated than War Thunder, but how many of them do you play? There's so much detail in this game. There are so many things that go beyond the surface level. And it's like, sure, there's issues all over the place. I'm not defending that, and I don't want to brush that under the rug and say, you should focus on all these lovely, pretty things to play around with. But the amount of things in this game that works, like the armor indicator, being able to see the exact performance of the rounds that you're firing, like what they do. That's so cool to me. I think a lot of other people too. There's so many things in this game that work incredibly well. Sure, there are parts that don't work quite as well. I'm not going to pretend that's the case. But I think people really overlook just how far this game has come and just how much that it does. And I don't think that having lots of, thousands of vehicles is, a baseline for, competency. I don't think that's, fair at all, because you can have 2,000 vehicles and they don't work at all. That's definitely a possibility for another hypothetical game. But this game does work. Sometimes it doesn't, sure, but the majority of times it works. And, from my perspective, throwing all of that work, all of that effort, every single vector on every single nut and bolt of every, aircraft cockpit under the bus, because, you got packet loss one time and missed a shot? Does it invalidate everything? I'm not trying to say it's not frustrating after the 100th time it happens. But there's so much perspective that I think people lose. And, as well as some people are saying in the chat or whatever, it's a free-to-play game. And I think from that, the game is sort of what you make of it. Back to, I think, the initial point that, I was talking about earlier, is that, if you force yourself to play those things, play the parts of the game you dislike over and over and over again, of course you're going to be frustrated. Of course you're going to be annoyed. But that's when you take a break. That's when you try something else, and that's, that's how you approach it. It doesn't work this way. And see, odd, even for that has not happened to me personally in years. And it doesn't happen to every other player constantly either. For some people, it's really annoying, and sure, that's going to make people angry, and I get that, absolutely. And they're justified in feeling angry. But it doesn't happen every game. Not to everyone here at all. There are issues all over the place. All over the place. But it's not this game-ending scenario that people pretend it is. It really isn't. And I think in a collective perspective, it's disingenuous to pretend it's that way. In the same way that basically in the, I think, 3 terabytes of footage I got from recording my last video, I got 1 bug. Does that mean that my approach with the game is the same for everyone? No, it doesn't. People can get way more issues than I have. I'm lucky enough to have a good PC. But it doesn't mean that everyone is, seeing this game in the same way. So in the same way that people can't say that every game there's an issue, you can't say that every game that you have there isn't an issue. It's different for everyone. So pretending that the game's broken or the game's perfect based on either of our perspectives is inherently disingenuous. And I think in general it's a harmful perspective to have. Because then what usually happens as well is that I don't mean you saying this at all, but if you're reading in places saying that, oh, every game I get an issue, every game I get a bug, whenever something happens, like, you miss a shot, you clip into a wall or whatever, and it's not a bug, people, like, the amount of times I watch, because I like to watch small streamers a lot. I like to watch people who are new to the game. I like seeing their live experience with the game. And you will see these people do things that, are mistakes effectively, and bad things are happening, and they think it's a bug when it's not. It's just an error that they're committing, or it's something they don't understand that's happening. And that's happening because people are convinced that this game is a buggy cesspool mess when it's not. And as well, so at the same time, I can appreciate there are issues in this game that really need fixing. It's not every single match that you have, there's going to be some game-breaking issue that's going to ruin it for you. And like the amount of times I see people who are, they miss a shot or whatever, or like hit a piece of volumetric armor, they made a really poorly placed shot and say, oh, this is the game being broken. It's not. At all. And I think the more that people kind of hold this mindset, the more kind of, the more damaging it is. And I think, again, it's not honest at all. Yeah, because my job especially here is getting a lot of footage as well. So I need to have like a long bank of like a 5 terabyte hard drive for footage and stuff. So yeah, I've a lot, but I like recording lots, that kind of thing anyway. But yeah, footage dad, perhaps. See, Odd, what do you mean with this with the T44? Because the T44 has an internal spool liner, and the mantlet behind the mantlet overlaps with the cheek armor because of the layout. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's how it's meant to be. And its armor layout. So maybe it's either. I don't know. If it's an issue, then you can look into it. But it does have the internal spool liner and the overlap. Thank you, human. I appreciate that a lot. It is nice to, I guess, have hear positivity from people. I remember this when I used to stream on Twitch. I don't do it very much anymore. But I'd used to get people come in and just say like, man, this game's trash. I'm like, I don't think so. I quite like it. And they'd be kind of taken aback for it because they are conditioned to sort of, for people to agree with that just because, it's the baseline. It's just so ingrained. I think, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, and I've overrun by half an hour, but I don't really care at this point. I really like being in this position. And, I don't mean to kind of, in any case, put myself on a pedestal here at all, but I mean, for all these people saying, Gaijin, whatever, like, hide criticism or whatever, like, I'm allowed to be here on the official stream and say these things to you as a representative of the company. I don't say that to kind of say, look at me, I'm doing this. Everyone pay attention to me now, please. But, I can be here and acknowledge all of this at the same time. And I think, it's really not this abhorrent experience that people think it is. Well, Odd, if there's a wider issue with this tank with the volumetric, then it's, it's going to be worked on in the same way that all volumetric's being worked on. There's some changes, I think, this week with it. And I mean, as volumetric itself, it's always being worked on. I don't know the exact issue with the T44. I can't really see of any issue that I have. But odd that this issue with the individual blocks of armor, I believe it's being constantly worked on. I know that there's been some changes with it recently as well. So obviously, I mean, you know, I haven't experienced the issue very much. Probably is there. I'm not saying it isn't, but I know that volumetric is something that a lot of people are working very hard on. That's all I can really say right now. So Talos, this is good. Thinks I'm deflecting, so let's see. So I don't think that's the perspective I've had at all, and I would say it's quite dishonest to paint it in that way. I've said quite openly and quite consistently through this entire conversation that people have a very valid foundation and a basis to have complaints, and that there are things wrong with this game. And I don't mean to be unkind to you, but if you would have listened to everything I would have said, I don't think you would have been making those comments to me right now. Because I agree with you. Sure, there are some things that have a really high repair cost. I'm not calling you mean and horrible for having an issue with something. As I've said multiple times in this stream, you are, perfectly valid and perfectly within your reason to have issues. Doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if they're valid or not. So I really think that's I don't think that's a fair perspective to have. Maybe you tuned in halfway through and you missed the start. I don't know. That's really not the perspective I'm having right now. Well, I'm giving right now at all. So I can't really, empathize with that perspective. Of course there's issues. But I think the core of what I've been trying to say here for quite a while, I think I have been saying and probably oversaying a bit, is that you can have those issues and have those problems and still not be unkind to people. That's it. I'm sure the next echelon of that discomfort is why is no one listening to me? People are listening to you. And I think one thing that people need to kind of think about as well, especially with feedback, is that just because somebody doesn't listen to your feedback, or rather, just because somebody, that's the worst way I could have put it. Ignore that. That's a Freudian slip or whatever. Just because somebody doesn't implement your feedback doesn't mean that it was ignored. And that's an issue that a lot of people have. I've had people come in here before and say, I gave feedback on why this vehicle's BR should have been changed. Why wasn't it changed? Because the person in charge looked at what you had to say and thought, well, your perspective of a player is not my perspective as a game developer. I understand the consequence of this decision more than you do. I have chosen to not implement this in the way you've suggested. And it's like, just because the things you say aren't being added to the game doesn't mean that they're not listened to. I know they're listened to because part of my job is collecting feedback from the content creator Discord, or, from, sometimes on the Reddit, sometimes we do it on the Reddit, and the forum as well. It's all collected. It's all given to the people who make the changes, and it said, we make the arguments. And then it's up to the people in charge to, action those issues. And if they decide that it's, they disagree, then that's it. That doesn't mean that your voice has been, tossed in the garbage. It just means that the person in charge of making the decision doesn't agree with you. And that's, at the same time, that's fine. I'm not trying to say that the issues that any of you have with the game are, invalid. But, sometimes, I agree. I think some things are valid. Obviously, I can't sit here and be deliberately, speak ill of, the game development or whatever. That's reductive if I do that. But I think something people need to consider is that, there are things that I think about. I think something in this game should be a certain way. Just because I've played the game for 9 years and have a lot of experience doesn't mean that every idea I have is good. I can be humble enough to say that. And I think it's the same with everyone else as well. Just because something seems a certain way doesn't mean that, it should be, because there are ramifications of, choices. It's in the same way of so the argument not the argument, the example that I use is that, say if the BR spread was changed to 0.7 on the surface, great. Imagine every single vehicle is never up-tiered ever again. Almost the entire game would need to be rebalanced to compensate for that. because some vehicles would be incredibly strong. And so, from that change, it would create a huge amount of knock on issues and knock on effects. Maybe it would end up being a great idea in the long run. I don't know. But just because it seems like a great idea on the surface, like just using this as an example, doesn't mean that it's tangible and effective and workable for the game. And I can appreciate that in the absence of evidence, it's hard to, as a player, to have that perspective and, you know, make an informed opinion in the absence of evidence, whatever. But I think that's just a way a lot of game development is. And, you know, that's as far as I can kind of comment on it. Some things aren't transparent. Maybe something should be. I think a lot of more things should be transparent. But there are reasons that I'm now, you know, privy to that make sense why it's like that. Maybe we can work on it down the line. I don't know, but we'll see. Shifty, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, I do appreciate that. But, you know, I think in the past, no, I don't want to talk about myself. That's not what I'm here. But, yeah. Why don't the dev team change it to 0.7 and test it on like the test server? Because the test server in general is such a small kind of collective, you cannot test matchmaking like that. I think, I can't remember this example, and I may butcher this example, but there was, forgive me, I might be getting something this wrong, but for perspective, I think it was a new League of Legends champion or something, and the testing team could have played, I think, 40 hours a week on their internal test server to test how this new champion worked or whatever, how it worked in the meta or whatever and all that. Or they could have it on the live server for an hour, untested, and get like 60 times the amount of information and data and feedback than they could. And that ultimately is much better. Sure, maybe like the counter to that is that it's a bit more, I guess, damaging for overall game health or whatever if you're putting it on untested. But you get so much more data, and in the long run, those hours of people that, you know, put the time into testing stuff could be better used in other areas. And so putting something like that on the test server will not get the bigger picture at all. So it's just like that. You know, there are some things that can't get tested in such a way. So that's why we had the EBR at 4.3. No, I think it was introduced. Actually, I know why it was at 4.3. It was at 4.3 from what I remember because it shared the placeholder with another vehicle that had the same introductory sets, I think. I don't think it was intended to be 4.3. I think it was intended to be 5.0, I think, when it first came out. But there was something with it that was noticed too late. But yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. In a sense like that, there are aspects that could probably benefit from testing. And I agree with you. I mean, I'm not defending that at all. I think with certain vehicles, there should be more perspective on, hey, hello? There should be somewhere else. It did go from 4.3 to 4.7, but it was only in retrospect that the mistake was noticed. It wasn't that, you know, I can't, if I describe exactly why it was like that, it kind of incidentally leaks something, and I obviously can't do that. But yeah, for that, I agree with you. I think more perspective should be given in the introduction of adding a vehicle like that. I can't disagree with you there at all. I can't disagree with that at all. So yeah, sometimes it's as simple as it looks. Sometimes it isn't. You know, there's more to everything. Why bombers don't have a real cockpit? Because it takes about as much money to model a bomber cockpit than it takes to model an actual aircraft, like a fighter. So the perspective you have is that would you rather pay like 12,000 euros modeling a bomber cockpit that less than 1% of the player base will consistently use, or a vehicle that the majority of the player base will get the chance to use in its entirety? And I think the most honest answer is the latter. And I think that's mostly why bomber cockpits aren't being prioritized. Because you can make a vehicle that a lot of people will, you know, just click, drive out, play. And to use bomber cockpits, it doesn't really come into play that much. You can use it in Sim, sure, that's valid, absolutely. But not a lot of people play Sim, and not a lot of people play AB or RB in the cockpit view. And with that data, I think that's just where the priority is, and that it's not a lot of So one bomber cock is about 12k. No, I made that up. Well, I didn't make it up. If you go on the wiki for the revenue share program, it lists the price that you can be paid if you make any assets for the game, and it's around that. I think it depends, but I know that around the price of one bomber cockpit is the same as a fighter. So you can check on the actual page there for a more accurate number. Blazzy says, wash your hair. I washed it this morning. You can't hurt me like that. You'll need to try much harder. Yeah, it's just an example. And yeah, I think people drastically underestimate the amount of money that it takes to implement something like that. Really, really, really does. And yes, they do take a very long time to make. Same with ship models as well. Use conditioner? Yeah, I do. I use 3 things on my hair. I use a sort of general like anti-dandruff shampoo, anti-frizz shampoo, and then a very nice Moroccan oil conditioner, which is very, very nice. It's just that my hair is incredibly thick, so it's difficult to kind of manage, I guess, at times. So, you know, people can insult me for it all they like. Most of the time I like how it looks, and that's good enough for me. Verizon, I think in some cases, I can't speak entirely, but I think in some cases, it's either they don't work with the game, or there's an issue with them, or they're too similar to actually add into the game. And I think a lot of the legacy vehicles that are in the files were made at a time where you were, well, when they were trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records for the most playable aircraft. So there's a lot of vehicles like the Year 2 TATs that are basically functionally identical. I think the TAT in the Year 2 was the electrical system the radio used, and it had a different designation. So I think, you know, a lot of the legacy vehicles were in the game on that basis, and I think that's why they're not being added into the game, because they have no meaningful application. It's like another vehicle to just, you know, progress through. You can't expect War Thunder devs to make perfect decisions every time. At the end of the day, they're doing their best. The devs don't care about the game, wouldn't have some cool unorthodox things like experimental jets, Sagittaria 2, HO229. I don't think it's unfair to demonize. Yeah, I agree with you entirely. And like the thing is, I work with these people, albeit in a limited way, with the devs specifically. You can hear my voice going a bit right now. Apologies for that. I work around these people, and I know the effort they put in. Literally, some of them are working like I said earlier, like one of the devs here sometimes leaves the office like past midnight because he's working on something. No one's forcing him to do that. He just wants to get the thing he's working on finished. And literally, this guy, there was this issue a while ago where somebody, I think one of the content creators, worked out that if you're pointing your seeker of a missile at directly away from the sun, like the sun is directly behind you, it will lock, and you'll get a phantom lock. And I recorded a video of that. I sent it to the in-house developer and was like, "Hey, do you know about this?" And he was like, "Hmm." And he gave me this like really long explanation about like light vectors, and I was like, "I understand, yeah, got it." And then at like 2 a.m. that day, he was like, "It's fixed." They work really hard. They work really hard. And just because, you know, something's implemented in a way that doesn't seem good, or, you know, you disagree with, they work really hard. And again, it's like, it's what I've been trying to say. It's like, when you say, you know, the Gaijin devs are all, when I say you, I don't mean you individually watching. I mean you collectively, which again is maybe unfair, but you know what I mean. When people say the devs are, you know, horrible idiots, blah, 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 you don't hate any of them. You don't know any of the devs that work here. You probably don't know any of the names of the devs apart from the named ones who have an active sort of public role like BVV. You don't hate them. So the anger that's afforded to by that is so pointless. So pointless. And it does, I'm going back in my loop here, but it does make me sad because I know the effort they put in, and I think if so many people, like, well, I guess if everyone, excuse me, knew how hard the dev team work, they'd probably not say anything unkind again. Maybe they would, I don't know. But there's so much perspective. How many hours do Gaijin devs work a day? I can't speak for them because they're probably on different contracts than me. But generally, I mean, I imagine, if I were to guess, I don't know, that it's the standard work day, but they can work for as long as they want. So like even some days, like me and another colleague who I'm quite close with here, we sometimes leave the office at like 11 or midnight because we're working on a project. They do the same thing. If they're trying to get something finished, they'll work on it till it's finished. Obviously, there's a minimum amount of time they need to work, obviously, but nothing stops them from going beyond that. And in general, they go beyond that. And I can sit here as a representative, I guess, and promise you that's the case. I can't speak for all of them. But for those that I know personally, I know how hard they work. I'm not trying to convince you to, like, love them because of the effort they put in if they're not making something that you disagree with. But on a base level, they work really hard. They're not these morally reprehensible idiots that a lot of people take them for. And I really don't like that. But, I can appreciate at the same time that in the absence of evidence, people will come to their conclusions. Yeah, Stavros, I think so. And it's why a lot of people are kind of said before, hey, get one of the devs on here to talk. And at the same time, I don't want to give the community a face to hate, I don't want that. I don't want to do that to people because I don't think that the community in general is in a position to be kind to that. I don't know if they are. Maybe that's my perspective. But, is the dev team large? Yeah, pretty large. Very large. Oh, thank you for the raid. That's very sweet of you. Gazart24. I don't know how to pronounce that. I probably said that wrong. But thank you. Hope you had a nice stream. Hope you enjoyed your time. Thank you for being here. That's very sweet of you. Don't know. Maybe I'll get a haircut one day. I don't know. I just don't think I'd look that good with short hair. I've had it ever since I was young. And I don't like change. Change is risky. Maybe at some point. Maybe. It would certainly make people harass me a bit less, but we'll see. We'll see. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bald confirmed? I am not sure about that. Maybe not. Maybe. We'll see. Guess people are just bored and sad the game is going downhill. See, again, that's something I wouldn't really agree with. There are issues of this game that are worse than probably what they were in the past. But I think a lot of that is proxy of new things being added and not being as good as they could be. Like, for example, you could say that, the game's better before Naval because Naval brings more issues. So collectively, there are more things wrong than they were before. And I think on that basis, I can kind of agree. I don't really think the game is going downhill. I'm certainly not having less fun with it now. A lot of people try and say that like player numbers are dropping, which they're not. Quality is going down, which it isn't. I just think, a lot of people at this point are jaded by, well, for whatever reason or another. And, that's not an invalid perspective. It's just, I don't think it's true. See, Talos, that's not even a fair comparison. New vehicles being added is not a kind of like blanket over issues with the game. Because, the things that are added into the game and the team that work on fixing things are not interlinked like that. It's not like, one of the leads says, okay, people are angry about this. Let's give them a shiny thing. That'll work. I don't know why people pretend that this happens. I've never understood it because it's just so far from how anything in game development even begins to work. Maybe people have that perspective in the absence of actually knowing how things, function, but it's not the case at all. never is, probably never will be. It's not the case. And I would disagree with the fact that people don't insult the devs themselves. I constantly see people insult the devs themselves in tandem with issues. And that's really part of the issue. And it's in no way a correlation between new stuff getting added and an issue you have not getting fixed. It's not even close to being even remotely similar. Maybe it seems that way to people, I don't know. But it's not the way that it works. Like, I can stake my job here on the, that is so far from being accurate, I can't even, describe it any further. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, again, there's issues in this game to be fixed. There's things that could be improved. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's not the case. But trying to kind of pretend that that's the way the team go about fixing it is all-encompassing of the entire issue I'm trying to talk about today. In that, people will just make stuff up in the absence of understanding how it works. And that's not an attack on your intelligence at all. Maybe it comes across that way. I'm not trying to say that you are wrongly assuming something because you don't understand. I'm not doing that. I can appreciate that if you're not in possession of every fact, you'll assume. I don't say you as in you, everyone will do that. That's fine. But again, it's not a free pass to be terrible to people at all. Sometimes I feel the game manipulates my emotions on purpose via matchmaking. I don't know what that means. Do you mean that you think the game is deliberately trying to frustrate you? Because no. That can't really even be a tangible thing that happens at all. I mean, it's a connection I think probably people will make when they're annoyed. Because it's like, yeah, you want to justify why a bad thing's happening. But no, I think that's just paranoia. It comes down to that. But that's my opinion as to why the game isn't enjoyable to me anymore. Getting disintegrated immediately after spawning a plane isn't very fun. And I don't disagree with you. And it's sort of for that reason that I can enjoy the game, is because again, this is a sort of pretentious perspective. I don't play top tier and I don't spawn in planes very much because I know that feedback loop is bad. I agree with you. That's an aspect of the game that isn't really fair. Maybe planes or helicopters should spawn always behind terrain so they can get the jump potentially. Maybe that's a good way to go about it. I don't disagree with you. But I think a lot of this game, again, you know me, you know that I'm not trying to say you're playing the game wrong. But I think adapting in this game, in the meantime, is a really important aspect to enjoying it. It's like, if spawning and dying constantly in a plane is annoying you, all you can do in the meantime, until something is changed, by whatever means, is do something else. And sure, like, that's going to probably annoy some of you that I've said that, because, it's not my place to say, hello, play the game differently, please. I'm not trying to do that. But it's how I've managed to keep playing this game and not get annoyed by it. Because I'm not going to constantly bash my head against a wall I know will hurt me. And I'm not trying to kind of like, defecate on you for that. Can't say the S word, PG-13. But I think in the meantime, that's the best thing for like health to do. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, Odd. And I don't disagree with you. I think that's why, I can say at this time that top tier is probably my least favorite area to play because I don't like the feedback loop. So I don't force myself to play top tier constantly. I play the areas of the game that I like. And again, I'm not trying to say play like me or you're wrong, but it's just like, hey, this is my perspective. This is how I can play this game and enjoy it. Maybe try that too if you want. That's all I can really say with this. And yeah, I think that's really the best I can do. That's really the best I can do. Good night, Tome. Good night. Sleep well. Much love. Uh, 3 hours. I need to do some voiceover for a book later on today, and it's half an hour until I finish work, so my throat's gonna be a bit dead. But I mean, it's 5:30 now. I might as well continue till it's 6. So let's go for another half an hour, shall we? Let's do that. So yeah. You do audio VA? Yep, I do. Quite loosely right now. I'm doing practicing 2 speaking styles. So I've got 2 books I'm trying to do right now. I'm not like I guess, well, I'm not like partnered with anyone or anything. I'm at a stage where it's like, hey, I did this. Please give me some feedback. I would like to improve and maybe get some work in this field someday. So I'm practicing that right now in my free time because I quite like it. I like doing that. So yeah, as far as I'm going right now. What genre? Um, like my favorite genre that I like is magic realism. I like kind of mundane modern day scenarios, the weird stuff happening. I've always liked that. So I'm reading. Oh Christ, what am I reading? I think it's called Temporary. I was a book I ordered that should be at home. I want to read that one. Um, from what I remember, it's about a woman who's like trying to find meaningful work, but she works like a ghost, and she like goes through time and works in like different scenarios. Like she's sort of the secretary to an assassin. She like cleans pirate decks, like pirate ship decks and that kind of thing. Like it's really kind of interesting. I like that. Another one I'm reading is Accident Dancing, which is here. It's a sort of loose. Um, it's sort of a loose poetry book. Sort of. I quite like it sometimes. There's one here that it says, "Feel unloved, Google yourself, feel worse, repeat," which is very apt if you are someone who exists on the internet. And I quite like that. There's a little one there. Yeah, I don't want this to become sort of poetry power hour because it's not exactly very interesting, probably. No, there's some good ones in here. This one's called. I'll do one more. This is called Time Machine. It says every second is a time machine that takes us from now to after now, but it helps if you run, and I quite like that. Yep. Why he talking about books when people are trying to ask questions about the game? Because somebody asked a question about book voiceover, and I answered it with live sort of object-based answers. That's why. But now I can return to the regular scheduled question and answering. Thank you for your concern that I'm going off topic. So, anyway, what do we got? War Thunder the book. So I quite like to write a. It's like such a kind of embarrassing thing to do, but I'd like to write like a War Thunder book one day. I don't know if I could, but there's so much you could put into it. You know, I know, like a kind of history of it, how everything worked. Yeah, maybe one day. What's for tea? I don't think I'll consume much today. I've had a lot of coffee, so I usually don't eat in the evening. I have a lot of coffee. I might have some, I don't know, toast or something. Shells, there's no reason to kind of get annoyed at me for that. The chat goes quite quickly, and if I'm answering a comment or if I'm speaking about something else, I'm not going to actively read another comment I know I can't answer. I guess you can have a go at me for that. That's fine, but I can't really do anything with the annoyance that you have. If you want to answer the question again, I can answer it. But that perspective, I can't really do much with it. If the question is if the special task is bugged or not, as mine isn't counted towards the task for 3 days now, I don't know the particulars of our issue. I can't answer that with no information. If it's something that's, not moving, like the task is stuck and it won't add on to anything, and you can't buy another one, maybe there's an issue, then maybe go to support, ask them about it. There's nothing I can do right now about that particular issue. The best I can say is, ascertain as to whether it's actually a bug. Ask about, well, I can't see your issue right now. I don't know the visuals of what you're describing. So, yeah, double check with them. If it really is an issue, go to support and check it. He's only reading the comments people with Prime time and the special markings. No, I mean, this Twitch channel isn't even monetized, so that doesn't even have a basis. That's quite funny though, actually. That's pretty good. But no, in the last, I mean, I'm overscheduled by an hour, so I haven't really been reading comments very much. I've just been reading, I've just been talking about stuff I want to talk about. So, yeah. I'm probably being a bit loose. Fast and loose, yeah. What's with the hate all the time from people here? Oh, we've had a very long discussion about that. I think people expect it to be like that. It's, if you watch a live stream from an official Gaijin person, you expect it to be negative. After all, why would someone from the community come here and be nice to me? It's part and parcel of the job. It's just, people's foundation of perspective towards this game is, this game and the people behind it is generally negative. So people will usually take that attitude when they engage with people. And that's sort of a bite-sized summary of what we've been talking about, I guess. Ragnar, no worry. I didn't take that comment as like a negative thing. You don't need to apologize at all. I took that as funny rather than an attack. So don't worry at all. Don't take that badly. Socks with sandals, okay or not? I don't think I've ever worn sandals. So I'm not sure. Probably not though. That sounds sort of strange to me. Sorry, I've missed a couple of comments. I know that you were talking about music last Monday, but what do you think of Slipknot? I've probably listened to some of their songs or his songs incidentally. I've never really listened to them very much. It's a bit too heavy for me, I think. It's not something I will like refuse to listen to, I guess. But yeah, probably not chiefly for me, although I can appreciate that the music it is not bad. So it's just not really for me, I guess. Never worn sandals? No, I mean I've never really gone to sort of too many lengths in my shoe career. I think I have like 2 pairs of shoes. I know 3 pairs of shoes. Sorry for the repetition. Just wanted to ask, any opinions on whether a Brazilian tech tree could work? I don't, from my limited perspective on the Brazil sort of armored force, military force, I don't know if they have enough to make an entire tree. I think what's probably more likely is they will appear sporadically as premiums or event vehicles in other trees, but I don't know. I have no idea. I think it's probably on the less likely end of new countries to come to the game, if there are going to be more countries coming to the game. I don't know if there are. So I think it's quite unlikely to see a fully fledged faction, a fully fledged faction, but I really don't know. So we'll have to see. Yeah, to butt into human odds conversation there, I think it is in its infancy as a kind of mechanic, and there are going to be teething issues. But I guess, the flip side benefit of it being on the live server is that like we can see how many issues there are with it and fix them better. Because, you can test the vehicle for like 100 hours on the test server and not find an issue that someone can find in 10 minutes on the live server. And, you sacrifice a bit of game health for that, but you fix things quicker. And if that's the perspective, if the guys who are in charge of testing the game find that more valuable, then that's more valuable due to their experience. And I'm not in a position to disagree with that because I'm not experiencing with it in the same. And, with volumetric, I mean, I don't experience these issues as much as other people seem to, in that I bounce a lot of rounds, but I can kind of see that it's because I've made a bad shot, and Christ, that was a bad one. Shot! I've made a bad shot, and that's why it's happening. And I think I would probably comfortably wager that a lot of people kind of blame volumetric when they've just made a bad shot. And I think I'm probably quite accurate with that. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think I am. From the amount of times I've seen people kind of claim that, and obviously just aim poorly. But, that's not trying to deflect that, the system's not perfect, because it's not. There are issues. I'm not denying that, and I completely agree that there are. So, let's keep reporting them. Because, I mean, I've even done a couple of reports on it myself, because I can action bug reports. Well, not action them, but I can put them into our internal system that logs them for the guys to work on. So it always helps. Every file helps all the time. All the time. Yes. I'm completely out of fluid now. Am I? Let's see. Yes. Yeah, odd. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest concerns, is that those armor layouts that kind of use different layers, that was a big issue. I think a lot of that is steadily being fixed. I think how it works is that those layers are still there, but the extra effective armor that comes from hitting the edge of one of those plates is capped at a certain amount. I think that's how it works. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it works like that. I'm not sure yet. Numbers, I want to do that. That was my idea. I don't know if we can do that down the line. I haven't really spoken about it, but I want to. I want to do some, I've got a couple of ideas for charity streams I want to do like that, so hopefully we can do it at some point. Yeah, I like that idea. I know the charity I want to donate to, so hopefully we can do it at some point. Absolutely. Ruby Fox, if that's a sincere comment, that's made me very happy. I'll read that out. You just made me realize that Gaijin isn't a monster. They're people doing a real job, and this isn't our job. It's a game we play to have fun, and if we aren't having fun, we should just stop. I appreciate that a really big amount, because that's it. That's it. If you don't enjoy it, do something else, you know? Because exactly, it's a game. You unwind with it. And if you're not having fun, you know, it's good to stop and just do something else to make it feel better. It's like if, you know, if you're playing before bed and you have a bad game and you're too tired and you go to sleep, you're going to go to bed angry, and that's not good. And I think that's the best thing to do. That was like a gyration I had there. Look at that. Wow. I vibrated. But that really is the best thing you can do with any game, with anything. You know, it's like I appreciate that this is a very poor comparison in general, but it's like gambling in the sense that you want that one more dice roll. You want that one more game to flip your perspective. Bad game after bad game after bad game, you want a good game to finish on. You know, and it's like a dice roll like that. And you know, instead of losing money, you're losing your happiness. You're losing the fun you could be having, you know? And I think literally I've always found it is that if I need to get footage for my video, and if I'm forcing myself to play, I play worse. And I've only ever had bad experiences when I force myself to play if I'm not into it. If I stop, do something else, come back to the game the next day, I'll play so much better. And I will say to myself in my head, I remember this every single time, I say, just stop when you feel like that. Just come back later. And this is the result, and you have a much better time. And I can promise you that if that works for me, it will work for you. And I think that works so well in tandem with not approaching the game like a job. Because if you're playing to just, you know, fulfill a task, then that's what it becomes. And if you don't get the result you want, you'll beat yourself up about it. And that's not what a game should be. It really isn't what a game should be. But, yes. God, my throat's really giving up. Although, we have 20 more minutes. So let's see what we can do. If one team has more vehicles on one side, is it because of balancing or people failing to reconnect? Yeah, I think it's people failing to connect. It's never a balancing feature at all. There are some issues that there are issues with connectivity that come into play. I don't know exactly what they are, but it's not a balancing thing. It's just that maybe one server cluster has like failed, and so people connecting to that cluster can't join. I think it's something like that, but I really don't know. Don't take that as gospel. But it's more likely an issue on that front rather than, you know, anything balance related. I'm really not sure at all. You know, having fun in War Thunder, play one of the F-Photo Falls. Yeah, I haven't played them very much. I hear they're sporadically successful from what I understand. I haven't had some good times with them though, but I've struggled a bit in other times as well. I've missed a lot of comments again. Missed a lot of these, especially on YouTube. Sorry, YouTube. How do countries get decided to face each other? I'm not sure exactly. I think it's just down to who's queuing at the time. I don't know. I don't have a. I could probably guess the answer, but I don't want to guess because I'm not like in possession of all the facts with it. I'm not sure. I think it is just down to who's queuing at the time and the brackets the matchmaker can make. I think. I'm a new player and I've noticed that my Focke-Wulf 190 seems to be sliding towards one side. I vaguely remember experiencing that, I think in arcade a long time ago. I haven't experienced that for a long time, so I'm not sure. Apologies, I'm not sure about that, but I know what you mean. I think I have experienced that with the Mustangs as well. I think I've experienced that. But I haven't experienced that for a while. What Focke-Wulf is it? I'll check later. Make a note. Make a note there. Yeah, let me know, and I'll write that down to check. This is my ambient noise. Does map preference actually affect matchmaking? I don't think it does, but again, I don't know. I'm not hyper familiar with exactly how the matchmaker's working right now. I don't think it does, but at the same time, again, I'm not in possession of all the facts with that, so I'd feel, like I can't really give the most accurate comment. I'll have to see if I can find out. I went to the gym and came back. You folks still here? Yes. I'm going 2 hours above my schedule today. Well, nearly 2 hours, hour and a half. I'll switch this off when my work time ends, which is at 6 our time. So in 15 minutes or so, I'll finally round down for today. In what country are you right now? I'm in Germany. I work in Gaijin's European German office. In I can't say the name because I'll mess it up. But yes, I work in Germany right now, which in some ways is terrifying, but in other ways it can be quite fun. Do you think teamwork should be rewarded more than now? Sometimes it feels like your team members are your opponents as well, who kill steal and won't help with repairing. Yeah, I agree. I think in some instances, I guess from a monetary perspective, it pays more to be unkind like that, which is a shame. So I agree. I think there's probably more to do. I don't know what's possible, but yeah, I think there's probably more that we could do in terms of rewarding people for teamwork. I'll see if I can, I used to make documents to give to the team, like, hey, what about this? I haven't done one of those for a while. I'll see if I can do that. No, I agree with you there. It's the A5U4. I'll check on my end if that's the case. Second. Wait, did I just say U4? That's wrong, isn't it? A5U2. Why did I say U4? I couldn't have got that more wrong. Anyway. I'll check that when I get home. Thank you. Hope to work for Gaijin one day in the German HQ. Yeah, sure. I mean, like, I think there's still applications on the website for like marketing and stuff. If you want to join in, you can hang out with me and Mike and everyone else. I think it's still open. Or if you're a developer as well. Forgot about that. We are always looking for more in-house developers. Decent pay? Well, it depends what you're doing, I suppose. Doesn't pay unfairly, but I mean, depending on your skill set, it varies, of course, like any job. Decent pay? I can't really speak about my pay. Will the Type 99A be added in the game in the next update? No idea. Maybe. I can't really leak anything, I guess, in that sense. But, there'll be, there's things to do. That's a very non-answer. Sorry for that. I mean, comfortable or not. Well, right now, how can I best describe this? My, I will explain this in a fair way, but on the basis that this isn't like sympathy bait. Right now, I still pay for a flat in the UK for my dad, who is generally not very happy, and I have a flat by the sea, and he goes there to kind of get away from his neighbours who he hates sometimes. So I'm spending a lot of money covering that and the council tax and all the bills and that kind of thing. So I don't come away with like a huge amount of money, but I mean, I can do what I want to do. It's not a lot, but I can do what I want to do. Well, yep, that's probably the fairest answer I can give. But yeah, it's okay. It's workable. How to catch enemies off guard with what? Tanks, planes, scenarios. Why do player name only concise, only of numbers? I think it's like a common, like a Chinese thing that they use numbers for it. I think that's the case. I don't know. That's what I remember hearing. Maybe I think it's like they're meant to be their area code or something. It's one of the cultural things over there or something. I really can't remember. Something like that. You mean an apartment in the O key? I'm not sure what this means. But yeah, it's just back in my town. I pay for. Did you learn German for your job? I can't speak German. I can speak some German, but not very much. But I don't really need to speak much German to work here, really. It's all fine. You don't need to speak German to work here, but it does help. But you don't need to. Where's Mike? Home, probably. Well, definitely. I know he's not here. Council tax in the UK is robbery. Yeah, it's great. I love council tax. You know, the tax rate in this city is huge. I think I pay. Are you allowed to talk about how much tax you pay? I think you are, aren't you? Yeah. Am I allowed to do that? I'm not going to perjure myself if I do, am I? Am I allowed to do that? Someone tell me. I am. Yeah, I think I pay 36% tax in this. At this job with Gaijin. So yeah, heft. But the city's okay. It's very clean. That's something. How's the tea? No tea today. We ran out of tea, so I had to use horrible coffee instead. Meh. Not a fan. I can't put this back down. There we go. Yeah. Sad. Man, the end of my tether is being reached. I've been talking for nearly 3.5 hours. Oh my god, I'm gonna die when I get home. Really gonna die. This is how I'm gonna talk tomorrow. It's not gonna be fun. Do you think Gaijin will ever add the Tall Boy and Grand Slam bombs? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think they function on kind of the groundbreaking principle of like their damage is like I guess earthquakey, isn't it? Isn't the Grand Slam penetrates the ground and the explosion, the damaging effect is the shockwave that penetrates through the ground, like through the earth. I think that's right, if I remember, in the sense that it doesn't do a lot of traditional HE damage, so it doesn't hit the ground and blow up everything on the surface. It penetrates the ground and then explodes underneath. Yeah, seismic bombs. There we go. So on that basis, it doesn't do traditional damage to tanks, and I think that would be hard to model. And I think that's probably the reason why it's not added now. But I could be wrong. That's what I would guess, though. But yeah, I don't think they would operate in the same way as normal bombs that we know from the game. Jesus, you all right? Your throat sounds like shattered glass. I just my sort of voice has very little like longevity, and I've been talking nonstop for like 3.5 hours, so it will sound wrecked after a while. My voice will break a lot, and it'll get kind of very, like this, which is not very nice, but the perils of the job. I don't need to talk much tomorrow, so you know, maybe. This does make me miss streaming a bit, though. I like streaming. Well, I did a bit. I hated it, but liked it at the same time. Maybe I'll do more. Maybe. Maybe. Hmm. Um. I could hurry up with my own decal, but I don't know what it would be. Maybe. Sorry, I got really close to the mic there. I didn't mean to do that. There we go. Brilliant. Oh, it's okay. It's just my my way of being. My voice is just like this. I don't look after it very much. Well, I do a bit. I'm putting this voice on. I don't usually sound like this. Yeah. It is difficult for me. For reasons. I'll close this as well because it's blowing out my face. There we go. Now my face is at its usual hue. I don't know what the current options are because people want a meme thing like a frog or a cat boy. I'm not super sold on either of them, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll think about it. Yeah, oh thank you. I appreciate that you like the sound of it. I like to say stuff. So hopefully in the future I'll be able to say more things. Do more voiceover stuff. I like doing voiceover, it's fun. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know what your decal should be. Okay. So the auto mod just flagged the word put as misogyny. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for that. I like how Twitch has just made me feel like I've just allowed misogyny by saying accept to that. So thanks for that, Twitch, twice. That's brilliant. Does this mean something? What does put mean? Is it like an acronym for a bad thing? When will the Justin Plays decal come out? It's not, well, the people in charge of making the decals are in full, I guess, well, the contracts, the decals are in full, I guess, control of that. I'm not sure. It's up to them how, well, when they eventually do it. I don't know. Not sure. Hopefully as soon as possible, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe it's like that, like Women Stay Put, maybe. Maybe something like that. I'm not sure. Do I have a chance with you? Do you mean like to play? What do you mean? What style line? If I beat you in mini golf, can I get any 100? You can get a rental of it if you beat me at mini golf. I used to be really good at mini golf, but I haven't played it in like 10 years, so probably not. Maybe. Generally though, if you want to play mini golf, let's do it. I'll play mini golf with you after I fixed your vacuum. That sounds sexual. I didn't mean it to be. Your decal should be considerate. Maybe. I need to think of something universal and fun. I'll think about it. Frog body, your head and hair. Oh no, that would be like a sleep paralysis demon. He seems 17 and 45 at the same time. Yep. I guess my voice sounds like I'm 45. Like I'm like a 10-year-old smoke. Well, I've been smoking for 10 years, but I look like I'm, don't know. I know what I look like thanks to the internet, which is lovely. See, it's like it's picked up put like p.u.t as misogynistic as well. I'll allow that. Okay. What does this mean? Can someone like find this out for me? How old are you actually? I don't know. I don't really know how old I am. Because so we lost the date of like we lost my birth certificate ages ago, and so the date on my birth certificate is like what my dad thought I was thought how old I was. So I don't actually know how old I am. I could be, well, I was about to say I could be 34. Obviously, I'm not. I'm 20 something. I don't know how old I am, but I'm around that, I think. Probably on the lower end, but we'll see. I'm going incredibly grey though. My birthday is the 22nd of September. is when my birthday is. I quite like not knowing my age though. It's quite fun. I don't really do very many birthdays. Um, the last birthday I had was when I was 8, and I went bowling and I lost, and I thought, well, what's the point? So I just never had a birthday again. That was a really strange noise that I made. Sorry about that. Does your medical record have your age? I don't think so. When I've gone, they've had my the date, like as in like the 26th of September, but not the year. From what I remember, maybe my first GP has it actually, because I moved GP when I was quite young. I have to check. Maybe I can eventually find out. Although there's a sort of weird comfort in not knowing. I kind of like that. But yeah, I should probably find out at some point. Is there a cat decal? A real cat? Maybe there's like a couple, but I don't think they're like intrinsically like realistic cats. They're just kind of depictions. I don't know if there's like a proper one. Would you consider celebrating a birthday again? Probably not. The thing is, like, irrespective of like the irony of doing what I'm doing now, I really don't like being the center of attention, or rather, like, I don't like being the reason why people are at a place. Like, if it's a case of like everyone's somewhere because of me, I don't like it. I've never liked that. So I probably wouldn't have a birthday, I guess. Well, I wouldn't have like a thing for my birthday. I just sort of, don't know. Like, oh yes, I'm born today in the past, probably. Hooray. So, yeah, I'm not really very good at that. I'm not the best. Hello, Bella, how are you? You have been missed. I will be leaving in about 3 minutes, but it's nevertheless good to see you. Hope you're okay. Yeah, I had to have this conversation. They were like, I had to send a copy of my ID to work here. And I was like, well, I don't have one. Like, what? Yeah, we don't have like IDs in the UK for like general, like normal ID. You have like provisional licenses, but that's it. It's like, okay, what have you got? I have my passport, which is wrong and expired 15 years ago. Okay, give us that then. And I did. So, yeah, they don't know. Well, they do know, as far as I know. Just been to France for a week. I hope it was nice. I hope you enjoyed France. I've not been to France for a very long time, I think. My nose is itching. Ignore this. I'm intensely professional, as you can tell. What are your thoughts on bombing target variety? I think it could be better. I think we could have more interesting things on the ground to blow up. At least even visually. Like names of stuff. Like this is the such and such factory, this is the whatever plant or whatever. That could be fun. And if it was like named, so it was like the name of a factory or the name of like, I don't know, or like a power plant, then like it'll be easier for bombers to like call out their targets. Like I'm bombing this plant, or like I'm bombing the whatever power station. And it'll be easier to kind of do your targets that way. So yeah, I agree. I think that'll be a very good thing, maybe in the future. My hair is very floof today, yes. I slept on it weird. And when I sleep on it weird, it just sort of goes like that. With that sound effect as well. Paradoxically. Anyway. Yes. Bombing the ball bearing factory. The dream. Hi, how are you today? I am good, Paul. I hope you're doing well as well. I will also be leaving in a minute. Because it's like I've been streaming since like 2:30. No. Yes. And it's 6 now, so I should probably go. Do you brush your hair? I don't. If I brush my hair, it sort of doubles in volume, and it doesn't look very nice. I feel quite self-conscious about it because my hair is quite big. I get stared at a lot when I'm walking around, which is not very nice, but I mean, usually I just blur my eyes and forget they're there, which is probably not the best thing to do when avoiding traffic, but, you know. I do okay. Shush, Bella. Not now. You look great too. I can confirm this. Sorry. I've spent a long time here today, I guess. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I don't know why I said that in a very robotic voice. But anyway. Yeah, it's now 6 o'clock and I'm off work now, so the sense of not crippling my voice for tomorrow if I ever need to do some talking, I should probably disappear off home now. So yeah, I'm usually very bad at ending things off, but yeah, thank you all for being here for so long. We've streamed for over 3.5 hours, which is terrible. But yes, thank you very much for being here. It's been a bit of a weird one today, I suppose. But thank you for listening to me ramble on for an hour about... Christ, that was bad. Ramble on for a very long time about the things that I think about, maybe. But anyway, I really appreciate it a lot. And I will see you all Thursday with Mike. And so until then, hope you have a lovely week. And yeah, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.